Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon and today I'm finally going over my movie collection. I've been asked to do it for a while and I never got around to it because, I don't know, it seemed kind of silly, but a lot of people wanted it, so here it is. It's not in its final form. I am still planning to add more to it. Of course, every year I'm going to add more to it as well, but this is where it is as of August, barely August still, 2020. So, also, side note, just because it's up here, just because I own it, doesn't mean I actually think it's a good movie. Case in point, I guess I'll start with the so bad it's good section right here. So, first off, I've got a movie called Velocipaster. The name says it all. Intentionally bad, but also just very bad. Next, I've got Troll 2. I did a drunk review of this. One of the worst movies ever and hilarious. Here I've got Silent Night, Deadly Night, parts 1 and 2. Haven't actually seen the first one, but the second one is so bad, I can only imagine what the first one's like. Next we've got Sharknado, another one I'm pretty sure was intentionally bad on purpose, but still hilariously awful. I've got Samurai Cop, another classic. I think it's one of Chris Stuckman's favorite worst movies of all time. It definitely is bad. I'll have to review this next year, probably for the worst month of your life if I do a sequel like I did last time. If I do another month like that, I think I'll get around to this one. Next up, we've got The Room. Of course, everybody knows about it. I heard of it from the Nostalgia Critic, though, so thanks, Doug. We've got The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, some people might say, why is that there? That's not horrible. My answer is, yes, it is, but I love it. Resident Evil, you might have the same question. It's really bad. It's actually the first movie that I remember reviewing with my sister in the style that my channel is basically based on now, and I'll have to review it soon. Maybe I'll do it this October. It's got some serious flaws to it. I understand why you'd like it if you like it, though. Plan 9 from Outer Space. Once again, did this past year. It is so bad. It's hilarious. The Nuttiest Nutcracker. This is a throwback to the first Christmas review I ever did. Truly an awful movie. My Five Wives. It sucks. Krampus. This is part of my yearly Christmas viewing. I watch it every year with some friends. It's really stupid. I should review it too. I should also, if I ever do another top 10 or top 25 Christmas movies of all time, I should add this, because it's definitely on my yearly viewing, so. Manos, The Hands of Fate. Also, thanks to another creator, another reviewer for this. I saw Science Mystery Theater's 3000's review of this years ago. It was my first exposure to any kind of comedy like that, and it's probably the biggest inspiration in me being a movie critic today. Little Shop of Horrors. It's not bad. Again, this is an intentionally bad movie, I think. There's silly stuff throughout it, stuff that's just goofy, like Steve Martin as a dentist who likes to hurt people. I don't know if that's enjoyable because it's bad or if it's just actually good. I'm not sure, but I definitely enjoy it either way. Don't want to offend anybody with that opinion. And The Langoliers, another one that I got from the Nostalgia Critic. Anything Stephen King, man, any of his miniseries, they're just classics. Kung Pao, Enter the Fist. All I can say is, it's fantastic. It's an intentionally bad movie. Steve Odekirk wrote and directed it and stars in it. He also made Ace Ventura 2, by the way, if you've ever seen that. He's a very funny guy who hasn't done a lot because he's also very weird. Hello Kitty, I got this purely for the Alice in Wonderland short. Never plan on watching it again. It sucked. The Happening, I think it speaks for itself. Mark Wahlberg and M. Night Shyamalan was a match made in heaven. The Devil Bat movie I bought as part of a larger collection previously for my sister because we would watch awful horror movies at the the Resident Evil movie started that tradition for us, where we just watch awful, horrible horror movies and make fun of them. So we would just get these giant compilation DVD sets where it's just like 50 movies in one, and they're all awful. We found this classic in there, and I had to buy it for myself because it's a wonderful thing. And back to school, of course. Me and my Rodney Dangerfield movies, gotta keep those reviews coming. So, as you can kind of tell, I'm just kind of blazing through these as quickly as I can because this isn't going to be edited, and I'm just kind of getting them out of the way. And if you want a more full review, I have first thoughts and on second thoughts for a lot of these, or even drunk or sober reviews for some of them. So if you want a more in-depth review, check those out because, like I said, I've reviewed a lot of them. So here on my little shelf here, I've got more important movies to me because it's like favorite directors or stuff like that. So right off the bat, we've got following as part of the Nolan series here. I've got all of Nolan's movies here. Memento, Insomnia, a very underrated movie. I think a lot of people disregard it as his worst movie. I don't think it is. I like it a lot. Batman Begins. Some would argue that's the best Batman movie ever made. I don't know if I agree or disagree. The Prestige, one of the top 20 best movies ever made, if not higher. It's fantastic. And The Dark Knight, which is what I would say is the best Batman, best superhero movie ever made. It's amazing that it came out 12 years ago now, and it's still nothing has come close to being as good of a superhero movie as it. Inception, my single favorite movie-going experience I've ever had. Just mind-blowing. It was amazing. Dark Knight Rises, I've talked about that in depth. Not nearly as good as the other two, but still has enjoyable moments. Interstellar left me speechless in theaters as well. That was a lot of fun. And Dunkirk, of course, I will add Tenet to this list as soon as I can, but as far as that goes, I'm seeing that on Monday. So, don't know, hope it's good. I think it will be. Anyway, then I've got a Charlie Chaplin collection right here. The reason I have it is because it's got a bunch of his shorts on it, but it's also got Tilly's Punctured Romance on it, so that's important because that was his first full-length feature film. We've got The Kid, which is often considered his first film, but isn't technically. We've got The Gold Rush, which is debatably the greatest comedy ever made. It also depends on how you qualify comedy, because you could say The Great Dictator's better, but I think The Gold Rush is more of a pure comedy, whereas The Great Dictator has some other elements to it. I've also got The Circus. You'll see with a lot of these older movies, especially like the Chaplin movies, I get them on Criterion because for old movies, the extra money is worth it for the higher quality, because sometimes you'll buy a movie from the 20s or the 30s and it's just the cheapest quality thing you could imagine. City Lights. And so I think spending the extra money for Criterion is definitely worth it if you're getting an old movie. If it's a modern movie, buy at your own discretion, because it is nice to have the extra special features and higher quality and all of that, but it isn't necessary. You could buy a $5 DVD and it would still be good. Here is Modern Times. It's a great, great movie that gets better with time. It really is amazing. The Great Dictator, the movie that made America hate Chaplin because he said Hitler was bad. Ooh, bad luck there, America. We've got Limelight. You might have noticed I skipped over one. Monsieur Verdoux is actually at a friend's house right now. I was showing it to him. So actually throughout my entire collection, there's somewhere around 20 DVDs or so that are missing because there's somewhere else that I want to show to somebody, or I've got it set aside for something in particular, like a review upcoming. But Monsieur Verdoux is a very good movie, and so is Limelight. And then we've got his last two movies here, A Countess from Hong Kong, and then King in New York. It also came with A Woman of Paris. That's the only way I could get it for some reason. But these both are from later in his career, and they're not considered his best movies, but they're still enjoyable, especially if you like Chaplin. Moving on to my third favorite director. That was my top two favorites right there. Now we've got Orson Welles with his first movie, Citizen Kane. Of course, he wrote, directed, produced, starred in that, all at the age of 25. Best film ever made. And then, unfortunately, with The Magnificent Ambersons, which is a good movie, but it is the first and far from the last time that studios interfered with Orson Welles' vision when he was trying to make his movies. Next, we've got The Stranger, which is a great, great movie. It was, of course, on my top 100 movies of all time list, if you haven't seen that. We've got The Lady of Shanghai. We have, of course, his Shakespeare movies, starting with Macbeth, also Othello on here, and Chimes at Midnight. We have The Third Man, which is not directed by him. It was directed by Carol Reed, but I have it with my Orson Welles collection because I just thought it would fit there. Then, right here, I've got Mr. Arkadin. I showed you the back of Mr. Arkadin, which is also known as Confidential Report, and this is one of the most screwed with of his movies, which is why I had to get this version. It comes with 3 separate versions on it. It's the Criterion collection of this one as well, and it comes with 3 different versions. It comes with their own version, and then 2 of the most popular versions of the movie. They're all different. They're all edited in different ways, and it also comes with the book that he wrote about it, or about the same story, because he, after his movie was butchered, he wanted to make sure that the story he wanted to tell got out in some way. So yeah, if you want to see that movie the way he intended, you should get that, because it's the closest we have to what we assume he wanted to say. Next is Touch of Evil. It's another movie that got butchered, but if you get this version, which is the Universal 100th anniversary thing, it is supposedly fixed according to his notes, so it's the closest, once again, to his vision. Then we've got The Trial, which is an amazing, amazing movie as well. Was also on my top 100 list. It's essentially a more grown-up Alice in Wonderland, almost, I guess. It's crazy. If you haven't seen it, you should. And then, like I said, Chimes at Midnight right here. And then moving on to Fritz Lang, who, if you haven't heard, he is a phenomenal director. This is Dr. Mabuse the Gambler, quite possibly his best movie. It's also very long. It is 270 minutes, in case you were wondering. And Fritz Lang is the main inspiration for directors like Alfred Hitchcock and Orson Welles, if you've heard of them. He is quite possibly the best director of all time, but if not, certainly in the top 10, top 5 of all time. Here is Die Nibelungen. I don't know if I said that right or not, but my German's not great. Here is Metropolis, which is also considered one of the greatest movies of all time, if not the greatest. Definitely one of the greatest, if not the greatest, sci-fi movies of all time. I think by today's standards, it is a little bit silly, but it's still definitely worth the watch, because the imagery of it is something to behold, even if the story doesn't quite hold up. Next, we've got M, which is my personal favorite movie by him, and one of the best movies ever made. It's definitely worth a watch. I should probably go through and do his movies on second thought at some point. Here's The Testament of Dr. Mabuse, which is the sequel, of course, to the other Mabuse movie, and it does have sound, and it's a lot shorter, so if you don't like silent films that are really ridiculously long, maybe you'll enjoy that one better. We've also got Fury, which is another classic. We've got The Big Heat, and we have the third sequel, or the third installment of the Dr. Mabuse franchise, The Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabuse. There ended up being more movies in that franchise, but he didn't direct them, and I haven't seen them, so I can't really say anything about them. Next, we'll move on to Alfred Hitchcock with The Man Who Knew Too Much, the original version. I also have The 39 Steps, which is not here because, once again, it's at somebody's house. We've got The Lady Vanishes. We have Rebecca. We have Notorious. We have Strangers on a Train. And I haven't mentioned it, but of course, Alfred Hitchcock, as you all know, is one of the greatest directors of all time. I don't think I have to say that, but anyway, Rope, which is a huge inspiration for a lot of modern films. If you liked Birdman or 1917, you can thank Rope for those movies existing. Dial M for Murder, which, aside from Psycho, is my favorite Hitchcock film. Slightly unpopular opinion, but it is a fantastic movie. Then we have Rear Window, which is a very interesting movie. It's like a counter Hitchcock movie because instead of having a sudden twist that you don't see coming, it doesn't have one, so you don't see it coming if you're expecting Hitchcock to do what he normally does. So it's very clever. The Man Who Knew Too Much, the remake with Jimmy Stewart. I love Jimmy Stewart. I don't know if the remake's better or not, though. They're both very good. Then The Wrong Man, right here. And then we've got Vertigo, which, of course, also was extremely groundbreaking in its visual style as well. We've got North by Northwest, which has been called the greatest James Bond movie to not be about James Bond. And then lastly, for Hitchcock, we have Psycho, which in my opinion is the last and greatest work by Hitchcock. I don't mean that it's his last movie he ever made. I just view it as the last great movie he made. I know Birds came out after that. I'm not one of the people that views Birds as a great classic. It's enjoyable. I don't view it as a great classic or anything. Moving on, we've got another of my favorite directors, Michel Gondry, who you may not recognize from his first movie here, Human Nature, but this is a great movie. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. If you like odd, weird movies, like the next movie that I'm about to pull up from him, which is my favorite movie of all time, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I think it's a flawless movie. It's fantastic. And he's got a very weird style that you can see in all of his movies. The Science of Sleeping, another one. They're all extremely weird, but it works very well in my opinion, except for in the movie that I don't have right now, because it's at a friend's house, in Be Kind, Rewind. He tried for a while to be an American director. He's French, and being an American director didn't work for him in my opinion. But then he went back to making foreign films like Mood Indigo, and I think he got right back on track. I can't say that every movie he made was amazing, but every movie he made, like Microbe and Gasoline is another one here, is memorable. And I'm glad he got back together with Jim Carrey for 2 amazing seasons right here of Kidding. I hope they keep going because I'm really enjoying it. I'm not one for TV shows usually. I'm not very good at commitment. I would rather just have a story be a couple hours long, watch it. If I like it, I'll watch it again later. If not, just move on. But they made a really good TV show that I really enjoyed. So moving on to Edgar Wright with Shaun of the Dead. Edgar Wright is quite possibly the best director working today. I would take Nolan over him. But other than that, I think Edgar Wright's the best director working today. I know you could say a lot of people, Tarantino, Anderson, a lot of people, but Hot Fuzz. I think Edgar Wright is simply brilliant in his both comedy and his more serious movies. But speaking of comedy, here's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I read the books, I watched the movie, and I love both. They're very different flavors, but they're both very enjoyable in their own ways. The World's End, probably Edgar Wright's weakest movie, but still invaluable. It is so much fun. It's very funny, very clever, very well written and directed. And then, of course, his latest film to come out on DVD, Baby Driver. So, why I love Baby Driver is that throughout Edgar Wright's career, he was making fun of people, or making fun of genres and tropes and how people didn't seem to be able to make the movies right. And so then he went out of his way to then make a movie right instead of just to continue on making fun of people. Moving right along, we've got one of the other greatest directors working today and of all time, Quentin Tarantino with Reservoir Dogs right there. And then of course we have Pulp Fiction, which is widely considered his best movie, probably my second favorite movie by him. It's very good, of course, but I like one more than that, and that would not be Jackie Brown, but I do enjoy Jackie Brown a lot. I didn't see it until recently. I went through all of Tarantino's movies, and so I had to watch this a couple times before I reviewed it, and I enjoyed it a lot. It gets somewhat of a bad rep because it's not his usual style, but I enjoy it a lot. And then moving right along, skipping a couple movies, we have Inglourious Basterds. So, Inglourious Basterds is my favorite movie by Tarantino. I know, slightly unpopular opinion, but I enjoy it a lot, unlike the movies I just skipped. Then moving right along, we have Django Unchained, which is very good movie. I don't know where I'd rank it, probably my 4th favorite by him. He's got a lot of good movies. Hateful Eight, not a huge fan. Still bought it because, well, I bought it in faith, thinking I would love it, and I didn't. But I don't hate it either, like I kind of did the first time I saw it. And then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I still haven't watched this since... No, I did watch it twice. I was kind of boring the second time. I've seen this twice now, and it's a very good experience of a movie. The second time it is a little bit boring after you know what happens. Moving right along to Fincher, we've got Seven, which I think is his best movie. I think he peaked there, which is fine. It's a fantastic movie, and he's had several good movies since, like Fight Club, another good one. But I think that Fincher always has one or two moments in his movies that aren't great. Zodiac right here. And so it's kind of just about limiting those as much as he can. Right here we've got The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, a very odd movie, but enjoyable. Then we've got The Social Network right here. It's got probably my favorite case. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it's got indented lettering on it and I love the case. I love the case. Not usually a huge guy for that, but whatever, it's awesome. And then Gone Girl right here, which I actually hate the case for because it's too thin. Once again, nitpicking. But yeah, so Fincher is one of my favorite directors. I think he's rarely perfect, but he's always very, very good. Moving right along, we've got Ang Lee, which as you go on, you'll see that I don't have every movie of every director like I do of Nolan or Edgar Wright, because I don't yet, or maybe I don't like all of their movies. Such as with Ang Lee, I've got Hulk here, which I have a whole video on why that movie's actually good. You can check that out. I don't love every movie by Ang Lee, but there's a few movies of his that I actually really, really love. Brokeback Mountain is one of them. But my favorite movie by Ang Lee, and the last of these three, is The Life of Pi. It's an absolutely amazing movie. I love everything about it. Visually, it's captivating. It's just stunning to look at, and it's a great story. Then I've got here The Godfather collection on DVD. I'm not usually one of those guys that likes multiple movies in one case, but this was just too good to pass up. It was like $10 or less. It was probably like $6 for all three of them, so yeah, I'd take that. Then I've got Apocalypse Now. Of course, they're all directed by the same guy, and it's just, I know. So he doesn't have a great track record outside of Francis Ford Coppola, if you don't know who I'm talking about. Francis Ford Coppola doesn't have a tremendous track record. He's put out very inconsistent movies, because he's put out movies like Jack, which is a big ripoff. And it's just weird to think that the guy who put out debatably the greatest trilogy of all time, and then debatably the greatest war movie of all time, turns around and makes movies like that. It's so weird. But anyway, moving along. We've got Wes Anderson, starting with The Royal Tenenbaums. I don't have all of his movies. I think I will eventually, because even movies that I don't love by him, I still can enjoy. Such as Life Aquatic. Not a great movie, but I enjoy it. But we're about to go into my two favorite movies by him right here, which is Moonrise Kingdom. Probably my favorite movie by him, but if not, then there's the next one, which is The Grand Budapest Hotel. I love both of them. Not sure which I like more. I think the middle schooler inside of me is telling me that Moonrise Kingdom is better, but I don't know if that's an accurate judgment or not. And then Isle of Dogs, which also very good, and also has a great cast in it, by the way. Even if they all barely say anything, it is a very enjoyable movie. Moving on, we have not a director exactly, but sort of connected here. We've got Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which I believe was directed by both Terry Gilliam and Terry Jones. Yes, it was. And then moving forward, the second one, Life of Brian, was directed by just Terry Jones, not Terry Gilliam. And then the third and final, Meaning of Life, a Monty Python movie, was directed by just Terry Jones as well. But I feel no shame in putting those right next to the Terry Gilliam series, which starts with Jabberwocky for me. Terry Gilliam is another great director, extremely odd. Time Bandits is another great one. And definitely my favorite Gilliam movie, not including Monty Python, is Brazil. Gets scarier every day. The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Like I said, he's an odd director. His movies aren't perfect. The Fisher King. In fact, all of them, I would say, are imperfect in at least one way or another. 12 Monkeys. They all have weird... There's a line of weirdness, and I feel like each movie crosses that line at least once or twice, but in that area that he is so good at balancing in just before the line, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, those moments in his movies are so enjoyable. And The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, which is one of his lesser-known movies, and I think one of the more underrated movies, because yes, it is very bizarre, but it is very, very enjoyable. Moving along to Darren Aronofsky, we have Pi, which is good movie. It is a solid movie, to say the least. Then we have Requiem for a Dream. I have the director's cut, I believe, of this. It is, yes. Not saying it's definitively better. I just will generally choose the director's cut over the theatrical cut, even if there isn't a major difference, just because I feel like the director wanted it away for a reason, so I'll take that version. Most of the time you can tell why the director's cut is better, but sometimes you can't. I don't know the differences between the two versions well enough to tell you why that's the director's cut, but I'll just go with the director's cut like 9 times out of 10. And then we've got his The Wrestler right there. Next up we have Black Swan, which I think might actually be my favorite Aronofsky movie. It's very, very well written. It's very dark. It's very creepy and entertaining, and I can't say enough good things about it. Next we have Mother, which is another movie that I am very glad I watched it. I've seen it twice as well, and I don't know that I'll watch it ever again. I don't know, because it's hard to watch, and it's an experience. It's not a happy film, but it is very good, so I think people should watch it at least once. Next up, we have Taxi Driver. We're going on to the Scorsese section here. I have some unpopular opinions about him, but by the way, I love this case. Once again, going with the cases here, I just love this mini sleeve. It just looks so good. Anyway, I don't think Scorsese is the greatest director of all time or anything, but I think he's definitely up there as one of the best ones. But I think he's another director, Raging Bull, that he has a lot of weird things in his movies that just don't fit with how good the rest of the movie is. He's in the same category as Fincher to me, long story short. The King of Comedy, right here. Probably my favorite movie by Scorsese, but that's pushing it, because Shutter Island is definitely amazing. The Departed is amazing. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. Here's Goodfellas, another amazing movie. And then we've got Casino, which I did not review this one because I had not seen it when I did my own second thoughts. I just bought that recently, actually. We've got Gangs of New York, which is one of those movies that you're just kind of frustrated that Daniel Day-Lewis is the best thing about it by far, because he's amazing in it and everything else in it is pretty good. Then you've got The Departed, which I just talked about, is amazing, might be my favorite movie by him. And then you've got Shutter Island, which, if I'm being honest with myself, probably is my favorite movie by him. The first time I watched it, I already knew the ending, but I was drunk and I was still confused. And then, lastly, we have The Wolf of Wall Street. I do not own Silence for reasons listed in my review. Moving on to my old friend Kubrick with Spartacus. Now, Spartacus is a good movie. It doesn't feel that much like a Kubrick film because it was before Kubrick really was allowed to or had developed his style like the Kubrick we know, which by the next one, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, however, is immediately his style, but the good version of his style, because I feel like there was a moment in time that he became very pretentious, and I think Dr. Strangelove was briefly before that, and so it was peak Kubrick to me because it was him at his best before he became too full of himself. That's not to say that he doesn't have very good movies that have come out after, and even amazing movies great movies that have come out after, like The Shining. But to me, Doctor Strangelove is the peak. And like I said, he still had very good movies to come out after. I just think that he may have become too into trying to seem artsy and seem intelligent that kind of took away from his actual artistic vision. Anyway, moving on to the greatest, hands-down, director of comedy of all time, we've got The Producers, which I think is very ironic that his first movie, they made an intentionally bad play, he then made intentionally bad movies. Not one of those, however, is The 12 Chairs. Most people won't know what that is, but it is his second movie, and it is very funny, unless you've read the book, apparently. Apparently, if you've read the book, you hate the movie, according to what I've read. I didn't read the book, and I love the movie, especially when they jump on the horse. That's the best part of the movie. Then we've got Blazing Saddles, which is debatably the greatest comedy of all time, which came out the exact same year that he and Gene Wilder also wrote and put out Young Frankenstein. I can't get over the fact that they did those movies both in the same year. That's two of the greatest comedies of all time, made by the same man, came out the same year. What are the odds of that? Here's High Anxiety, which, if you like Hitchcock, is one of the funniest movies of all time. Also, I'm not sure the exact order, but Robin Hood Men in Tights is MIA today, because guess what? It's at a friend's house. Now we've got History of the World Part 1. Genuinely bummed we never got a History of the World Part 2, because that is one of the funniest movies of all time. Now we've got Spaceballs, which is one of those movies that it has affected comedy so much as we know it, that watching this, if you've never seen it before, watching it now you might be kind of bored because I feel like all of these jokes have been told before. It's because of this movie that they've been told, though. So you have to go into that one with your mind wiped a little bit of all of recent comedy. Moving right along, we've got one of the most overlooked directors of all time, Frank Darabont, with his first movie, The Shawshank Redemption. First movie. Ridiculous. He followed that up with, of course, The Green Mile, which is another fantastic movie. And then, after that, Jim Carrey's The Majestic, which I will fight anybody, any day, tooth and nail over that movie. That movie is one of the most underrated movies of all time. I think it is a great movie. Then we've got The Mist, which I will not fight with you about. If you don't like it, that's fine. I enjoy it. I don't think it's a great movie, but I enjoy it. And then, of course, after that, he made The Walking Dead. He made the first season, anyway, which is, in my mind, still the best season. Moving along, we've got Zack Snyder's version of The Dawn of the Dead. This is another one that's the director's cut. In this case, I buy every Zack Snyder's director's cut because every Zack Snyder's director's cut is far and away superior. I've never seen the original, the theatrical cut of this, so I can't say that definitively for this. I don't like this movie, honestly. I think the original is better in every way, but I gotta support my boy Zack. I still do enjoy that movie. A little bit. Not a lot, a little bit. And then we've got 300, which is, I think, when everybody became aware of who Zack Snyder was with that. And then, of course, we've got one of the best superhero comic book movies of all time, Watchmen. Once again, if you've read it, you might feel differently about it. I watched the movie before I found out the ending that was in the comic books. I don't see how the movie's worse, but I understand if you do, I guess. Next up, we've got Sucker Punch, which, once again, you have to get the director's cut of that. It makes a whole world of difference. Then we've got Man of Steel, which is falling out of its case. Not great. I find it very challenging to make a good Superman story, and I think Snyder gave his all, and I think it ended up being okay. And that's all you can expect from him in my mind. Then you've got Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, which, as you may notice, is not the director's cut because they don't sell it on DVD. They only sell it on Blu-ray and maybe the 4K. I'm not sure. But I don't I don't buy Blu-rays yet because I don't know. I should, but I've invested so much into DVDs at this point, I feel like it's too late. Anyway, so I just have the normal version, but I have in my head the director's cut, which is a million times better. Now, moving on over here. It may look like it's not in any order, and it kind of isn't. There's some there's alphabetized stuff in the front, and then as we get farther back, I did this wrong, and it's the stuff I care about more, like favorite actor categories or whatever, is in the back. But I'll just start here because right off the bat, we've got a couple of movies I really don't like. I went through a phase where I was just picking my favorite actors and buying all their movies even if they weren't good. I still kind of do that with some actors, but I definitely check a little first now. And so I was really on the John Heater bandwagon at the time. I was in middle school, and I bought Mama's Boy and Moving McAllister. Both are awful, and I've tried to resell them multiple times and can't seem to find a buyer. I can't seem to get rid of them. Thunderbirds. You might be wondering, what is with this collection here? Because it's alphabetized up to here, and then it's not here. These are all movies that I plan to review soon, so keep your eyes out. Thunderbirds, one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's really bad. Hansel and Gretel. Really bad. I don't know what else to say about it. It made me interested in girls in a way. That's all I'm going to say. Eragon. I read the books too. I did not learn my lesson. They all suck. The Tuxedo also taught me something about liking girls, because Jennifer Love Hewitt's in it. It's a Jackie Chan movie, and Jackie Chan's fun, but Jennifer Love Hewitt's in it. Speaking of Jennifer Love Hewitt, I don't know if I'm actually going to review this or not. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to. It's one of Jennifer Love Hewitt's first movies. It's Trojan War. I remember watching it thinking it was going to be awful, but watching it just because she was in it. And I was surprised a little bit. Not saying that it was great, but it was enjoyable enough to get, like, I don't know, it's like in the once bitten category. If you know what I'm talking about, if you've seen my review of that. It's not awful, but it's not good, but if you like the person that's in it, you might enjoy it. That's how I felt about it. Then we've got Like Mike, which, oh boy, that was my childhood in a nutshell right there. I loved this movie. I Hate You All. I'm reviewing this soon. Haven't yet. It just came in the mail recently. I also hate you all. This is the last We Sing. The other We Sings are in here somewhere. If you're new to this channel, you might be wondering why I have We Sing movies. If you're not new here, you know why. Moving on. Alright, 500 Days of Summer. It's not a great movie either. I enjoy Zooey Deschanel and I enjoy Joseph Gordon-Levitt. They're fun. 5 Children in It. Awful movie. Really, really bad. I should probably review this too. I might put that in that category. 40-Year-Old Virgin. It's funny. I don't think it's quite as good as everybody else seems to think it is, but you know what? I enjoy it. 22 and 21 Jump Street. It might be a slightly unpopular opinion. I think the second one's funnier. I don't know if it's a better movie, but I think it's funnier. 1917. It's a good movie. I kind of felt like it lacked a little bit of purpose, but I enjoyed looking at it. 101 Dalmatians, the live-action version. This movie was very hard to buy for some reason. I had to look forever if I didn't want to spend $50 on it, which I didn't. Anyway, it's fine. I bought it for nostalgia. Zoolander. It's stupid. It's stupid. Zombieland. Also stupid. I actually hated it when I first saw it because it wasn't as good as Shaun of the Dead, and now I enjoy it. It's still not as good, but I enjoy it. Zack and Miri. It's I'm not a big fan of Kevin Smith, but this is definitely my favorite movie by him. It's very stupid, it's very crude, but I enjoy it a lot. I think Elizabeth Banks is a great actress, and she's also very, very funny. Witness. Gotta love Harrison Ford. Gotta love that it was filmed in PA. Yeah, if you're from Philly, you kind of just have to buy the movies that are from around here. It's just a rule. You just have to. The whole 9 yards. I learned some stuff watching this movie too. One of which is that I really like Bruce Willis. And that's all I was talking about, obviously. What if? I bought this movie. You may see this trend come up a couple times. I bought this movie because of a clip I saw on Instagram, because I follow a lot of movie clip things and stuff. And, oh yeah, follow me on Instagram at Simon's Rants YT. That doesn't roll off the tongue. Just look up Simon's Rants, and you'll probably find me. I bought this just because of one clip. I may put it in here or not. I'm not really editing, but I bought it just for the clip, and it's a fun movie. The Warriors, another movie I bought because of an iconic scene in it. It's not anything special, but I don't think you really go into it expecting that. If you do, don't. It's just, I think it's, the 80s? It's 79. It's 79, but it's definitely an 80s movie. Then you've got Warrior, which, is in the wrong place. This should be in my Tom Hardy section. Ooh, spoilers. I really like Tom Hardy. I think Tom Hardy is one of the best actors working today. When given the right script, I think he can be very bad and overact a lot when not told to shut up and slow down. People also think he mumbles too much. I don't know. I like him a lot. Walk to Remember, the first chick flick I ever remember seeing. And I've seen it recently. It's not very good, but once again, I had to get it for nostalgia's sake. It's a good idea. The Village is actually probably my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie. I know it's not the best plot twist in the world. In fact, a friend of mine didn't even realize there was a plot twist in it. I enjoy it. It's something. Vanilla Sky I bought because of a recommendation. I actually haven't seen this yet, so I'll have to get back to you when I watch it and give on second thought on it or something. I'm definitely very curious. I'm not normally a Tom Cruise fan, but it looked interesting. It looked good. The Usual Suspects. I talked about this in my top 100 movies list. It is a very, very clever movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I gotta get faster. This video is gonna be a couple hours long, so I hope you guys like long videos. Undercover Brother. Hey, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say about this movie? Tropic Thunder, I think a genuinely underrated comedy. I know people think I'm crazy for saying that because they're like, what do you mean underrated? Everybody loves Tropic Thunder. I think that is Mel Brooksian. I think that is one of the greatest comedies of all time. I think it's better than Anchorman. Just for context. Leave the hate comments below. The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Of course, you got my boy Humphrey in it. Trading Places. Of course, this was filmed in Philly, right? Or am I confusing it? I know. Nope, this was Wall Street. So this is New York. It's the other one. The other Ed Murphy movie that I'm thinking of. Not Trading Places. It's Coming to America. That's in Philly. So I gotta love it. Plus, Eddie Murphy's hilarious. I don't mean to undermine that. To Kill a Mockingbird. Great courtroom scene. The rest of the movie sucks. But the courtroom scenes are awesome. Titanic. I know this movie's kind of hated on because it's a chick flick. Get over it. It's a good movie. Is it cheesy? Yeah. But I like Leo and I like Kate. They're both great. The Three Musketeers. This is a nostalgic movie for me. I actually should go over my VHSs now, because this was actually the last movie my family bought on VHS before we officially switched over to DVDs, so I gotta rep that. So it's not a great movie, it's definitely cheesy, but it really inspired me. I wanted to be an author when I was younger, and I also wanted to be a screenwriter. I still kind of do in some ways, and this one really just blew my mind with the kind of stories you could tell. So I know it's basic, but as a young child, I loved it a lot. Speaking of things as young children, I bought these recently. You might have no idea what these are. If you don't, I'm sorry. And if you do, I'm more sorry. Once again with this, I bought a lot of VHSs recently that I need to convert to DVDs because I may or may not watch them. Who knows? Look out for those in the future. Or not. Okay, here's the dangerous thing. I'm going to say I'm reviewing these soon. Soon might mean 6 months. Soon might mean a year. So, be patient if you saw something you're excited for, because October's right around the corner and I have to do all these scary movies, and then before you know it, you're in December, and then it's January, and there's all these things that I have to do in those months. Those are the busiest months as a movie critic, so be patient with me. Anyway, Twilight Zone, something else I want to review. It's really stupid though, you might notice. Volume 43, it has episode 1 of season 1 on here, because they don't care. They don't care at all. They just do stuff in whatever order they want with their stupid DVD collections. Right here's Gulliver's Travels, which is the first full-length animated movie released in the United States besides Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Everybody knows about that. This one was the second one ever made. Still have it on VHS. I don't know if it works or not, but I still like having it. Watched it a ton as a kid. And then right here we've got the original VHSs of Star Wars. They're all very beat up, and this one's okay. They're beat up. I have them for, once again, nostalgia's sake there. Of course, I'm not using the VHSs for anything. This one, however, though, I bought, which is unopened, and that means a lot more. It's, of course, classic. That's just hard to get your hands on. And then I also have an unopened copy of VHS of The Sound of Music, which the reason I got The Sound of Music is that it is one of a few of the first VHSs released in America. They released 2 or 3 at a time, and this was one of the ones they selected to be the first movie released on VHS, so that's why I got an unopened one, because I thought that's a nice piece of memorabilia right there. Moving back to DVDs, we've got my Vincent Price collection. I know my impression's not great, but so I've got a lot of his movies. This one's a collection that's got The Abominable Dr. Phibes, Scream and Scream Again, The Pit and the Pendulum, Tales of Terror, The Mask of the Red Death, and Madhouse. Vincent Price is another one that his movies may be good, they may be bad, but you'll never be bored because you've got Vincent Price, and he's like Tim Curry in the same way that, like, no matter what he's doing, you're just interested. And I feel the same way about both of those actors. They're like the anti-Jimmy Stewart, where Jimmy Stewart's always the good guy. And once again, you don't care if the movie's good or not. You just want to watch Jimmy Stewart be Jimmy Stewart. These guys, you just want to see them be them, and you'll enjoy it. So this is another double feature. It's The Comedy of Terrors, which is a lot of fun. It's also got Peter Lorre and Boris Karloff in it. And then The Raven, which also has Peter Lorre and Boris Karloff in it. And very entertaining movies. You've got The Last Man on Earth, which is, in case you don't know, I Am Legend. It's the same book that was made. Not a great adaptation, but it's definitely still enjoyable. And then you've got The Bat, which I bought by accident because it was on the same collection as The Devil Bat. So I went to buy The Devil Bat, and I bought this one by accident. And, might be the closest I've ever gotten to being bored by a Vincent Price movie. Here I've got The House on Haunted Hill, which is maybe his most well-known horror movie. It's definitely up there. Then you've got The Fly, which he was in the original one of. I got remade later with Jeff Goldblum, but he was in the original one. Then you've got Laura, which is the oldest movie I have with Vincent Price in it. So it's, if you're a big Vincent Price fan, it's a lot of fun to go back and watch a young baby-faced Vincent Price. It was so unexpected because I went to watch it, had no idea he was in it, and was shocked and pleasantly surprised. Moving along, we've got, in reverse order because I did this wrong and I don't know what I'm doing. Hello! We've got the Tim Burton movies, and Sweeney Todd is the newest movie by him I own because he's definitely not who he once was. Then we've got The Corpse Bride, which is what I think of as his last really good movie. We've got Big Fish, which is weird. It's definitely weird. Sleepy Hollow, which is it's interesting. It could be worse. It could be better. It's middling Tim Burton. Then you've got Ed Wood, which is a lot of fun. Probably his last great one. Probably. I think that's fair to say. Edward Scissorhands, maybe his best movie. And if not, Beetlejuice, which is probably his best movie. But at the same time, hasn't aged great. I love Michael Keaton. The rest of the movie's kind of eh. And then we've got the fake Tim Burton movies in Coraline, which might be better than any of Tim Burton's movies, honestly. James and the Giant Peach scared the crap out of me as a kid. and I love it now for nostalgia's sake. And then The Nightmare Before Christmas, which, Tim Burton didn't direct. It was directed by Henry Selick, just like those other two movies. Surprise, surprise. Alright, and then we're moving on. I guess I started with it, but we're going back to just whatever alphabetized movies. So, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I bought this because everybody loved it. I kind of hated it, if I'm going to be honest. Kind of hated it. I've only watched it once, though. I need to rewatch it. I'll give it a second shot, I suppose. 1,000 Words. It's written by the same guy who did Click and Bruce Almighty. It's that same kind of story. Not a great version of the story, but it had its moments, so it made me cry. And we've got This Is the End. The funniest movie I've ever seen for the first 50 minutes, and then it gets really bad after that, but I really enjoy the first 50 minutes or so in this movie. That's just a random number. Don't hold me to that time slot and be like, oh, there was this really stupid... No, it's really funny for the first while, and then goes downhill quickly after that. This is Spinal Tap. It's a comedy classic. The Thin Red Line. I really wish there was the director's cut that was like... There's like supposedly a 5-hour version of this movie somewhere. I would love to see that. The Theory of Everything. Haven't seen it yet, but really a big fan of Felicity Jones, and very curious because this movie is supposed to be really good. So if you've seen it, let me know what you thought of it. Taken. It's iconic, you know? Like, what else can you say about it? It's iconic. You've got Swiss Army Man. Not a huge fan of this movie, but I kind of really enjoyed Daniel Radcliffe's performance in it. I know he doesn't do a whole lot, but I enjoyed him in it a lot. Movie's okay. Super Troopers, really stupid. Really, really, really stupid, but I enjoy it. Superbad. Same thing. Really stupid. Kind of love it. Great cast. I'm pretty sure this is like the beginning of Jonah Hill and Michael Cera for the most part. I know Michael Cera was in a TV show. I think this was after that, but regardless... plus Emma Stone's in it too, I'm pretty sure. Sunshine. It's a different kind of sci-fi. You might like it, you might hate it. It can go either way. I enjoy it. Stuart Little, another movie that you gotta love for nostalgia. Plus, it was written by the world-renowned M. Night Shyamalan. Don't believe me? Look it up. He wrote it. Stranger Than Fiction. I call this Will Ferrell's The Truman Show. He was definitely trying to branch out as a dramatic actor, and I think it worked well. I don't think it worked as well as The Truman Show did, but it's definitely still worth a watch. Stir Crazy. This movie's a lot of fun. I made the mistake, I don't know if you've ever done this, where you watch a movie twice, like... It doesn't have to be in the same week, that's what I did, but like if you watch a movie twice in a row, and then you kind of never wanted to watch it again. That's what what happened with me, because I watched this, said this is so funny, and I had to show it to a friend, and now I don't know if I'm ever going to watch it again, but I still have good memories of watching it the first time. This is The Sting. Bought it because Paul Newman. Gotta love Paul Newman. State of Play. This was given to me for free. Haven't watched it yet. I guess I'll find out. It's got Russell Crowe and Ben Affleck, two actors that make you really jump out of your seat in anticipation. Stand By Me. It's a classic. I know that's kind of a classic for, you know, people like 10 years older than me, but I still enjoy it. I don't think it has the same nostalgic punch for me that it would for other people. Same thing with The Goonies, but I still enjoy it. Space Jam. Pure nostalgia. It's literally just a commercial, and it's not even a good movie, but I love it, and I that's an honest review. I love it, even though it's not good. Soylent Green. That was loud. Soylent Green is another movie that I bought just for the iconic moments in it. I don't know if you can call it a really great movie, but it's definitely memorable, and it's iconic in sci-fi history, sci-fi movie history. And then you've got Snatch, which I've got a love-hate relationship with this, as I do with a lot of Guy Ritchie stuff. I love Brad Pitt in it, and that's kind of the only thing that really draws me back to this movie. The rest of the movie's fine, but Brad Pitt is definitely my favorite thing about the movie. Small Soldiers. If you've never seen this movie, I actually saw this before I saw Gremlins. I grew up with this. I didn't grow up with Gremlins. Gremlins and this are the same movie made by the same guy. It's just instead of little monster alien animal things, you've got toys that have military-grade AI in them. That's the rest of the plot outside of that is the same thing. So, yeah, if you grew up watching it, you probably like it more than Gremlins. If you grew up with Gremlins, you probably like Gremlins more. SLC Punk, another movie that was really hard to get for cheap for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm a sucker for Matthew Lillard. I don't know that many people would consider him a great actor. I think he kind of was screwed over by being, stuck, typecast as Shaggy for so long, but he's made a career out of it, so good for him. Sin City, weird movie, fun to watch though. The Simpsons movie, actually my introduction to The Simpsons. I wasn't allowed to watch them as a kid, and being from my generation, that was, middle school when that came out, so it kind of made sense. That was my introduction. Sherlock Holmes, Guy Ritchie again. Not, in my head, definitive version of Sherlock Holmes. I don't think he acts anything like Sherlock Holmes, but I enjoy the movie as a detective mystery movie, I guess. Shattered Glass, one of probably Hayden Christensen's best performances. I think, once again, he's another actor that gets a bad rep because of his typecast, and now he doesn't seem to be very good. But I don't know if he's even trying anymore, to be honest. Anyway, Shane, haven't watched this yet. I bought it because it's what inspired a lot of Logan, actually, the Wolverine movie, Logan. So that's why I'm very curious about it. Seven Psychopaths. Another movie I bought because of a little snippet I saw of it on Instagram. It's an odd movie. It's really weird. I don't know what I would rate it, but just watch it. It's bizarre and it's fun. School of Rock, hands down, Jack Black's best performance in a movie, and probably his best movie too. There's other movies like Kung Fu Panda or whatever that are good. I think this is definitively his best movie though. School for Scoundrels, from the director that brought you Joker, comes School for Scoundrels. This is another one that I bought because John Heder was in the lead role, and it ended up inspiring a lot of my middle school scripts I wrote as well. I wrote a lot of scripts, made a lot of videos. Eventually I'll have to review those or something, maybe when I get like 1 million subscribers. I don't want to do that anytime soon. But yeah, I lucked out on this one because this one's an actually okay comedy. It's not good, but it's okay. So if you like John Heder, check it out. Scary Movie, once again, defines a big part of my middle school life right there. Saving Private Ryan, probably Spielberg's best movie. I'm not a huge fan of Spielberg, I've said that before, but when Spielberg is good, he's great, and that's probably his best movie. Then you've got The Santa Claus 2 and The Santa Claus 1. Not great movies, but once again, just Christmas classics that I really enjoy. And if you don't think about the logic, they're a lot more fun. The Sandlot, another one that people always expected me to grow up with, and I didn't. I didn't see it until later, and I was probably too old by the time I saw it, but it still was fun. It's not a nostalgic movie for me. For me, it's just a fun kids movie. The Rundown was my introduction to Dwayne Johnson, or The Rock, as he's credited on this. It's another nostalgic movie. Just reminds me of my dad. He's a big fan of this movie. He's a big fan of movies like that in general. It's fun. Rudy. I gotta start getting through these faster. Okay, so Rudy. Rosemary's Baby. The Rookie, one of my favorite sports movies. Not a big fan of sports movies, but I enjoy it. Rocket Man is very enjoyable. Not really a biopic. It's more of like a Broadway show version of his life, but it's fun. The Rocketeer, very nostalgic for me. Gotta love it. It doesn't really hold up by today's standards, but it's fun. The Road, Viggo Mortensen is great. Ricky Tikki Tavi, grew up watching this. Little did I know Orson Welles was the narrator. That was prophetic in some way. Getting Cars with Boys. I got this movie for free when I ordered Idiocracy. I don't know why they gave me that. I don't know if I'll ever watch it or not. I guess I'll find out later. The Return of the King, the animated one, it's a nostalgic trip. I don't claim to think that's a good movie. It's not. It's just nostalgia. Scared me a lot as a kid, though. The Raven, saw this with a friend. I don't think it's great, but it's got interesting ideas in it. Ransom scared me a lot when I was younger. It's a cool idea. I love the villain. Who is he? Gary Sinise. I forgot his name. I feel bad, but Gary Sinise is a great villain. Rain Man. Also not normally a big fan of Tom Cruise, but enjoyable in that. A Quiet Place. Other than the ending, a very good movie. The ending, kind of frustrating. Punch Drunk Love. Don't love Adam Sandler, but that movie's alright. The Professional, or Leon the Professional, as some people call it. The Princess Bride. Oh, nope. The Princess Diaries. Nostalgic. I had an older sister, so I saw a lot of chick flicks as a kid, okay? Primal Fear. Maybe still Ed Norton's best performance. Who's to say? Pleasantville. The Place Between the Pines. Another movie that is very... I don't know if I love it or hate it, honestly. Pitch Perfect. One of the best recent chick flicks made. The Pianist, or Pianist. That word's hard to say. Philadelphia. Gotta love Philadelphia. Peter Pan, starring Mary Martin. It's the stage production. It's really bad, but it's nostalgic. See, okay. Quick backstory here. So my family, I'm the youngest of 6. And so my oldest brother is 10 and a half years older than me. And we would always watch movies together as a family. So you're either watching movies that I like as a 5-year-old that a 15-year-old is being forced to watch, or we're watching a movie that is too old for me. And so most of the time we're watching the 5-year-old movie while the 15-year-old is forced to sit there and make it entertaining for himself. And that became a thing for all of us. And so that's probably why I review movies, is because of watching movies as a family. It's one of my best memories as a kid, and that's why I do it to this day. The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Don't like Emma Watson. Percy Jackson, one of the worst adaptations ever made. It's awful, don't watch it. The Peanuts movie, one of the best adaptations ever made. Watch it, especially if you like the originals. It's even boring like the originals are. Pawn Sacrifice, movie about chess. I like chess. These reviews are great. Patton, George C. Scott is so entertaining. The Patriot, it's like Braveheart, but American. Passengers, Jennifer Lawrence is one of the best actresses working today. Chris Pratt is fun too. The Pagemaster, another nostalgic movie. Gotta love Macaulay Culkin. The Pacifier, I don't know why I own that. The Other Guys, it's one of Will Ferrell's best movies. Original Sin, I need to do a full review of this sometime. It's fun, I guess. Oliver, classic, one of the best musicals of all time. Old Yeller, it's sad. The OG Dog Dies movie. Old School, oh, spoilers. Old School, from the director that brought you Joker. I'm just going to say that for all of his movies. Now You See Me. It's okay. It's supposed to be a really smart movie, and it's really predictable, but it's okay. Notebook. It's cutesy. It's cutesy. No Strings Attached. Fun fact, in case you didn't already know this, it came out the same time that Friends with Benefits did. This one has Natalie Portman and Ashton Kutcher, and his name's No Strings Attached. But the other one has Mila Kunis and Justin Timberlake. Mila Kunis is married to Ashton Kutcher, and Justin Timberlake was in a band named NSYNC that their album was No Strings Attached. Why did they do that? Because scripts get leaked. Non-stop. Nobody really talked about it. I liked it just about as much as Taken. It's also just about the same thing as Taken 2 or 3 or any of those. Night of the Living Dead, another classic. Moving right along. Night of the Museum. It's a fun family movie, nothing special, but it is definitely fun. Nightmare on Elm Street. I did review this before. Nightcrawler, one of Jake Gyllenhaal's best performances. Gotta love Jake Gyllenhaal. The Neverending Story. I did not like this as a kid. I didn't really grow up with it because I watched it once as a kid and didn't like it. But looking back now at it, it's one of the more bizarre and dark kids movies, so I gotta give it credit for being that, you know. Anyway, Natural Born Killers, Mystic River, Murder on the Orient Express, much better than the new one we got a couple years ago that was awful. Mouse Hunt, nostalgic for me. Is it good? Probably not. The Most Dangerous Game. I love the idea of the plot. Monster House. Didn't particularly like that as a kid. I bought it years ago and I don't know why I did. Probably because I was in hey, it's a $5 bin movie or whatever. Mixed Nuts. A very underappreciated dark comedy. That's also a Christmas movie. Weird. Miracle. Probably my actual favorite sports movie. And I don't think I'm going to correct myself anymore when I say that. Midsummer, one of the only good recent horror movies in recent history. They're very hard to come by. That one's really good. The Men Who Stare at Goats, odd movie, but I enjoy it. But emphasis on the odd. It's very tongue-in-cheek. The Medallion, another Jackie Chan movie. Really liked Jackie Chan as a kid, so it's kind of nostalgic to watch his movies sometimes. Mean Girls, probably the best chick flick ever. I don't care what anybody says, this movie's actually funny. It's not just for girls. Mean Creek, you get to see Josh from Drake and Josh be a dick, in case you wanted to see that for whatever reason. Mary Poppins, maybe the best Disney musical of all time. I absolutely love it. The Martian, gotta love saving Matt Damon from anywhere, but especially outer space. He's done that a couple times now. The Maltese Falcon, it's my boy Humphrey. Love Me. I know that the love is crossed out. Don't buy your movies on eBay. If it says good, it doesn't always mean it. But yeah, Love Simon. I like movies that have my name in it. Lord of War. This should be in my Nicolas Cage section. It's not for some reason. Yes, I have a Nicolas Cage section. The Lobster. Haven't watched this yet. I'm really excited to. It's supposed to be bizarre but good. Colin Farrell is hit or miss, so we'll see. Little Nemo is a very weird movie. I think it's the first anime I ever saw. I'm not a fan of anime. This movie's odd though, and I actually really enjoy it. It impacted me a lot as a kid. Little Miss Sunshine. Like crazy. One of my favorite indie films of all time. If you like that indie feel romance movies, you should check it out. Life as a House. This is Hayden Christensen's other best acting performance. So if you like him, but was like, oh, he was never anything good, check those out. The Life and Death of Peter Sellers. I haven't really gotten into him yet, but Peter Sellers is one of the best comedic actors of all time, and Geoffrey Rush does a pretty good job playing him. Lawrence of Arabia. Not a huge fan of this movie, but you gotta have it. It's a classic. The Lady Killers. Speaking of Peter Sellers, he's in that in one of his earliest roles. Alec Guinness is great in it. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Bought it for a scene as well. Robert Downey Jr. is also a lot of fun. Juno, kind of hate this movie, honestly. Has memories attached to it I don't like, but my ex really likes it, in case anybody was wondering. Jumper, my third favorite Hayden Christensen movie. Yeah, even more than Star Wars. Not a huge fan of the prequels, whatever. Joe versus the Volcano. Another weird movie. But it's goofy and it has heart for those of you who like those kind of movies. Jerry Maguire, once again, not a huge Tom Cruise fan, but he does have some good movies and you can't hate him all the time. The Jerk, Steve Martin's best comedy. It's very funny. Yeah, what can you say? Jarhead, also, once again, I love Jake Gyllenhaal. That's one of his best performances. The Italian Job, iconic ending. Everything about that movie is enjoyable. Invincible, because Philly. Not always a big Mark Wahlberg fan, but I think he did okay in that. Into the Wild, this movie was suggested to me by a million people, so I had to get it. I'm getting around to it. In the Heat of the Night, iconic. Sidney Poitier is amazing. The Inspector General, another nostalgic movie. If you haven't seen this, you should definitely check it out, especially if you know who Danny Kaye is. He's one of the funniest actors of all time. The Incredible Mr. Limpet, I own because some reason. I think it's another one of those movies that was like $2 or whatever. I'm Still Here. Joaquin Phoenix is crazy, but he's also, I think, a genius. Maybe not. I don't know. Idiocracy, I bought this because it's funny. I did not mean to get that other movie that I got with it, but I did. Then we've got The Hustler. Once again, Paul Newman. Gotta love Paul Newman. If you don't know who he is, just check him out. Hot Rod. One of those really stupid movies. That's got either Amy Adams or Isla Fisher in it. Which one is it? I don't know. They look exactly the same. It's Isla Fisher. I could have sworn it was Amy Adams. I don't know. They look the same. They're the same person. They're leading a double life. Just both lives are actresses for some reason. I don't know why. Horrible Bosses 1 and 2. I think the second one is even funnier than the first one. Both are very funny, though. They're not, like, classics or anything, but they're definitely funny and worth watching. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Once again, nostalgia, classic. I haven't rewatched this recently. I recently watched the sequel and was disappointed, but I'm hoping that the first one's still good. I think it is. I think it will be. Home Alone, once again, I gotta have Macaulay Culkin. I did not watch this as a kid. I actually watched this for the first time when I was making my top 25 Christmas movies of all time list. That was the first time I watched it. That was 3 years ago? Gosh. The Hobbit. Still the best version of The Hobbit we have, aside from the book. God, screw you, Peter Jackson. We have Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Not a great adaptation, but if you've read the book and you like the quotes and stuff, it can be kind of fun. High Fidelity. It's a movie. I haven't watched it yet, I'll be honest, but I think I'll really like it. It's another one of those movies that have been suggested to me a lot, so hopefully it's as good as I think it will be. We've got Hidalgo, which is a fun, well, maybe not fun, but it's a pretty good Viggo Mortensen movie. If you're a big Viggo Mortensen fan like I am, then I think you will like it. Heat. I like Al Pacino and I like Robert De Niro in it. Val Kilmer is okay. Happily Never After. Awful movie that I bought, or my mom bought, because of Hoodwinked. I can't see it immediately. It's somewhere. But Hoodwinked suggested this movie to us. That movie's no Hoodwinked. Except for we would Hoodwinked when we bought it. The Hangover, from the director of Joker. Gosh. Hacksaw Ridge, it's okay. I don't love Mel Gibson, and I don't love that movie, but it's definitely not awful. I've had several people try and tell me it's awful. It's not. It's still enjoyable. Groundhog Day. Kind of feels like what I'm doing right now. The Green Room. Also one of the better horror movies to come out within the past few years that's, actually good. The Great Gatsby. Not great, not awful. A lot of people really tried to hate on that movie, and I can see why. I don't think it's as bad as some people were saying it was. The Greatest Showman, I really enjoyed it. I know it's not a great story, it's not historically accurate, but the music was very fun and I enjoyed myself. The Great Escape, I like it. It's a fun prison break movie that also has to do with World War II, so it's fun all around. Gran Torino, another Clint Eastwood movie right there. Got The Graduate, which I'm torn on. I don't love it as much as everybody else seems to, but it's definitely got good elements to it. Godzilla, this movie sucks. That sounded like I used Godzilla as an expletive. I didn't mean to. The Goonies, like I said, not nostalgic for me like a lot of people would think it is, but it's an enjoyable movie. It's not, I don't think it's great. I think you would have to have been there to really enjoy it like some people do, but I still enjoy it somewhat. Gladiator, one of the most quotable man movies ever. It's not great, but it's fun. G.I. Joe the movie, not good. Nostalgia, because as a kid, I was weirded out by it. You'll see that as a trend with some of these movies. The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, an absolutely hilarious movie. Don Knotts is comedy gold. The Ghostbusters, I also did a review of this at some point. Not a huge fan. I bought it because I thought I was supposed to like it. Get Smart. I didn't watch the originals, so I don't know how they compare, but I enjoy it. I know a lot of people who like the originals hate the remake, but I enjoy the remake. George of the Jungle. It's a really stupid movie, but it's intentionally stupid. It's really funny, and it's got a naked Brendan Fraser in it for those of you who like that. The original Fun with Dick and Jane, not the Jim Carrey version. Haven't watched this yet, but it is. It seems like it should be good. I've heard nothing but good things about it. The Fugitive, another great Harrison Ford movie. A lot of fun with him. Friends with Benefit. That's the Friends with Benefits. There's plural benefits. What's the other one besides sex? I don't know. That's, like I said, it's the exact same movie pretty much as No Strings Attached. Free Willy, nostalgia right there. Freaky Friday, back when Lindsay Lohan was hot and wasn't crazy. Those were the good old days. A Fish Called Wanda, gotta love John Cleese, and Michael Palin's in it too, and Jamie Lee Curtis. So great cast, great comedy. First Blood, enjoyable. Not a great movie. I don't know why we got so many sequels for it, but it's definitely enjoyable. You've got The Fifth Element. Well, I've got The Fifth Element. Why did I say you got it? Field of Dreams. Interesting concept. Don't know if it's a great movie, but it's definitely enjoyable. You've got Fiddler on the Roof, one of the best musicals of all time. A Few Good Men, of course. I got it because of the iconic moment in it. E.T. scared the crap out of me as a kid. Escape from Alcatraz. Haven't watched this yet. I've been trying to give Clint Eastwood more of a chance because I didn't grow up with any of his movies, so I'm trying to watch more of them. End of Watch, once again. Jake Gyllenhaal is fantastic, and I love him. All right, moving right along. We've got Enchanted. Amy Adams, not Isla Fisher in this one. It's a very good tongue-in-cheek Disney movie. It's self-aware. If you want more of those, check that out. Elf, Will Ferrell's best movie, hands down. Easy A, I like Emma Stone. Enough said. Dumb and Dumber. When Harry Met Lloyd. A disgrace in every way. DuckTales, the movie. Nostalgia trip for me. Absolutely loved that as a kid. Drake and Josh Go to Hollywood, or Go Hollywood, whatever that means. I loved that as a kid. Tried to rewatch it in college. Didn't think it was funny, but the TV show you can't really buy, so I got it. Dragonheart. Very good self-aware movie that's partially cheesy, partially heartwarming. Just check it out. Maybe you like it. Donnie Darko. I've talked about this. Really comes down to if you can accept a good idea without good execution, because that's what that is. Donnie Brasco. He can go with his other Donnie. Dr. Zhivago. Another classic. DOA. Haven't watched this, but the premise sounds really cool. Like, why do you own so many movies if you don't watch them? Shut up. Driving Miss Daisy. I like owning a collection. It's really cool. And I'm going to watch all of them. The Deer Hunter. Not necessarily a war movie, but like a post-war movie, if that makes sense. It's very good. You should check it out if you haven't seen it. Dazed and Confused. Have you seen this? Be a lot cooler if you did. The Day the Earth Stood Still. Not a great movie by today's standards, but it was so revolutionary in how it made sci-fi. The Day After Tomorrow. Jake Gyllenhaal's in it? That's a positive, right? It's not good. Dawn of the Dead, the original one. Here we go, finally. I don't love the original either, but it's definitely better than the remake, that's for sure. This is the double feature of Davy Crockett, The King of the Wild Frontier, and Davy Crockett and the River Pirates. Never saw the River Pirates one, but once again, it was really hard to buy this just straight up, so I had to get the double feature. I guess I'll get around to watching the other one eventually. Darkest Hour, one of Gary Oldman's best performances of all time. He is one of the best actors of this era, and that's one of his best movies. Dallas Buyers Club, very good movie. Another one that's hard to watch, but it's very good. The Crow, hard to watch for a completely different reason, but also very good. Got The Court Jester, which is one of the funniest movies ever made. Once again, if you're a Danny Kaye fan, you know it. And if you're not a Danny Kaye fan, you will be after you see it. The Count of Monte Cristo, which I also have for nostalgic reasons because it's the first DVD. That literal DVD is the first DVD my parents ever bought. And so it's impactful for that because of memories. Plus, I enjoy the movie, so that doesn't hurt. Cool Runnings, very nostalgic. I enjoy the crap out of the movie. Coming to America, Philly plus Eddie Murphy is hilarious. Click, don't love this movie. I love the idea of it, but with all Adam Sandler movies, there's just too much stupidity in it for me, but there's definitely good moments in it that I enjoy a lot. Clerks, it's fine. It's fine. The Chronicles of Narnia, also pretty good. I remember people trying to say it was as good as Lord of the Rings when it came out. It definitely isn't, but it's still pretty good. Christopher Robin, nostalgic for a completely different reason, because that movie's not that old, but it really makes you walk down memory lane if you've ever been into Winnie the Pooh at all. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is a classic. Dick Van Dyke is hilarious. The music numbers are fun. It's just really funny still. I have a drunk review of it. Check it out. Chinatown. Very, very, very depressing movie, but also very, very good. Maybe Jack Nicholson's third best performance after The Joker and in The Shining. Children of Men. Also depressing, but very good movie. Chaplin. Not a good movie, but Robert Downey Jr.'s impression of Charlie Chaplin is very good. So even though the movie itself isn't good, you should still check it out for his impression. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. The Cat in the Hat, a classic of classics. Mike Myers' a supreme crown jewel. Yeah, it's absolutely horrible. I bought it because I'm going to review it eventually. Cats and Dogs. Nostalgia. I think Jeff Goldblum's hilarious. I think the movie's pretty funny. Cats, the musical. Yes, I have this. It's not the 2019 one. That's the original one, which you might still hate based on the reasons you hated the remake, but I enjoy it. Catch That Kid. Kristen Stewart's a little baby. Nostalgia made me want to go-kart as a kid. Castaway. Aside from Forrest Gump, probably my favorite Tom Hanks movie. Casino Royale, the only James Bond movie I actually like at all. I haven't watched all of the old ones, so don't get mad at me yet, but not my thing. Captain Phillips. Still haven't watched this, but once again, trying to give more of these actors that I don't normally like a chance, so there you go. Caddyshack. If you've seen my drunk review, you know how I feel about that. Cabin in the Woods. It's a horror comedy, and somehow manages to do both pretty well. The Butterfly Effect. Probably Ashton Kutcher's only actually pretty good movie. I mean, no strings attached. I don't know. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Burke and Hare. It's funny in a very dark way. I don't know if I should recommend it or not. Brothers, I bought this because of a scene I saw on Instagram where Tobey Maguire looked amazing. Haven't watched the whole movie yet, but it looks really good, so I'll let you guys know later. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Braveheart. It's like The Patriot, but for Scotland, right? Sure. Bound. That is the Wachowskis' first movie, I believe. The Book of Eli. Up and Away, my favorite Denzel Washington movie. The Blues Brothers. Not nostalgic at all for me, but I enjoy it. Blade Runner, the final cut, which is supposed to be the cut you're supposed to watch. I'm going to be honest, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was anything special. Blades of Glory. Probably John Heater's best movie, and only actually great movie outside of Napoleon Dynamite. Bewitched. I think this movie's enjoyable if you didn't watch the TV show, probably. Because it's not a remake, it's like a parody of a remake, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does or not, but I enjoyed it. Ben-Hur. Classic. The Benchwarmers. Awful. Nostalgic, but awful. Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Childhood classic favorite thing. The Beaver. Supposedly Mel Gibson's comeback. I don't know if it really worked or not. A Beautiful Mind. A Beautiful Boy. Very hard movie to watch. Extremely hard movie to watch. It's just depressing in every way, but also really well acted. Probably Steve Carell's best movie, and I haven't seen a lot of Timothée Chalamet, so I can't really say anything, but he is very good in it. Babe, it's a very nostalgic movie for me. If you haven't rewatched in a while, give it a shot. You might like it even more than you thought you did. The Babadook. Took me a couple watches to actually like it. Kind of hated it the first time. Really enjoyed it the second time. Being There, another Peter Sellers classic. If you haven't seen his movies, you should get on it. Away, I had to buy this off of Amazon.uk, I think it was. It wasn't easy to get. The Apple Dumpling Gang, 1 and 2. Don Knotts, like I said, is absolutely hilarious. And him with Tim Conway, probably one of the best comedy duos of all time, and they only did 4 movies together, maybe more, but it's a real shame. The Apartment, another great movie. Anchorman, once again, Will Ferrell's second best movie, probably. Analyze This, it's funny. It's not anything special, but it's funny. I've got The American Pie 1 through 3. Haven't actually watched the third one. It's probably not good, but I enjoyed the first 1.5. American History X, Ed Norton is very good. The rest of the movie's okay, but Ed Norton's definitely very good. American Beauty, not sure why I own this movie. It's one of those things where I bought it because it's one of those movies everybody's supposed to love. I don't really want to watch it, though, and Kevin Spacey kind of makes me not like it either. Almost Famous, I don't know how to review that movie. It's like a nostalgic feeling movie, even though you're not from that time. At least I'm not. I still enjoy it. Airplane, one of the funniest movies ever made. Kind of, along with Mel Brooks, pioneered the parody spoof genre. It's hilarious. Agent Cody Banks. Hilary Duff. That's why I own it. Hilary Duff. Once again, had an older sister, so I saw a lot of Hilary Duff movies. Well, there weren't a lot of them, but I saw Hilary Duff movies, and along with Avril Lavigne, she was my first crush. I'm not sure which came first. Apparently, I was very much into blonde girls. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Now, that is correct. Sherlock Holmes. Basil Rathbone, or Basil, or however you say his name. Adventureland. This movie convinced me that Kristen Stewart actually can act. And Jesse Eisenberg as well, but to a lesser extent. They both can act in the right situation. The Adjustment Bureau. It's kind of stupid when you stop to think about it, but the idea of the movie is a fun idea that is like beginner's philosophy, if you catch my drift. And we've got Gus. This is when it stops being in an order again for a little bit. Gus. Haven't watched it yet, but like I said, I'm a big fan of Don Knotts, so I ended up just going on a buying spree of all of his, well, not all of his movies, but a bunch of his movies. I've got Terminator 1 and 2. They're the only two I really care about. I know that some people like some of the other ones. I only ever really got into the first two. I think that's a fair thing to say. Speaking of things only getting into some of, here's the trilogy of Planet of the Apes. I never saw more than half an hour of, I think, the original one. And I certainly never saw any of the sequels or the Tim Burton one. I have no desire to. They look like ass. Spy Kids 1 through 3. Those are backwards. Pure nostalgia again. Even as a kid, I knew that they weren't great, but I enjoyed them a lot. Here I've got the James Dean trilogy. I don't really like any of these movies that much, but it felt like film history, so I wanted to own it. Back to, briefly, alphabetical order, but these are more, like, these are all movies that I definitely like. So, 8 Mile, huge fan of Eminem, so that movie is just kind of something I've watched based on that. It is a good movie, too. The Wizard of Oz, one of the best movies ever made. Without a Paddle, probably the closest thing I'll say to a guilty pleasure, because I don't really believe in the concept of guilty pleasure, because if I like the movie, I've got a reason why. And the reason I like that movie is because it's 3 stupid friends, and that's something relatable, and I think it's funny. The Witch, it's Robert Eggers, same guy who made Lighthouse. I like it better than Lighthouse. I wasn't a huge fan of Lighthouse, if you saw that review, but I am a huge fan of that movie. It's grown on me the more time has gone by. Wind in the Willows, I've actually got a couple of these, very nostalgic for me. Haven't seen these in a long time. I might have to review them, so I've been putting off watching them again because if I review them, I want them to be fresh. So, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, one of the best movies ever made. Gene Wilder is phenomenal in this role. I've recently reviewed that too. Such a good movie. White Christmas, one of the best Christmas movies of all time. Once again, Danny Kaye is hilarious. White Bird in a Blizzard, one of my favorite indie films. Another one of them. The ending's a little frustrating, but it's still not bad enough for me to dislike the rest of the movie because it's a very original idea and for the most part well executed. Whiplash, one of the best movies ever made. J.K. Simmons is amazing in it. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? A lot of people argue about when Leo should have gotten his first Oscar. That's when he should have gotten his first Oscar. I don't care. That's still my favorite performance by him. He's amazing. Walk the Line. Very good. I'm a huge fan of Johnny Cash. I love Joaquin Phoenix as well, and it's a great movie. Tron, a nostalgic piece right here. Does not hold up at all, really, but I loved it as a kid. I was a weird kid, because by the time I saw it, it was still outdated, but I still liked it as a kid. I don't know why. There Will Be Blood. Brilliant acting. Not a huge fan of the story. I don't really care about the story, but not that it's a bad story, but I really love the movie because of the acting in it. Sunset Boulevard, complete opposite. Not that the acting's bad, but I'm really drawn to the story. I love that story. Streetcar Named Desire, of course, Marlon Brando, you gotta have it. A Star Is Born, and the Judy Garland one. I know there is another one, I haven't seen it. I'll get around to that eventually, I'm sure. The Sound of Music, another one of the greatest musicals of all time. Sorry to Bother You, an extremely odd movie. Really good. Very underrated. Not a lot of people talked about it. Some Like It Hot, of course, is a hilarious movie. Singing in the Rain, one of the best musicals of all time. Great acting as well, great dancing. Silver Linings Playbook. I'm from here. It would take me a while, but I could actually walk to most of the places in that movie. It would take me a while, but I could do it. Silence of the Lambs, one of the best horror movies of all time. Seeking a Friend for the End of the World might be my favorite. Well, okay, it depends on what you classify as indie. If Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is an indie film, then that is. But this is one of my favorite indie films of all time. I've said that I know about a few things, but indie films are really good a lot of the time. They're a lot of the time better than Hollywood movies, just being honest. Secret Life of Walter Mitty, as well as the original one, which has Danny Kaye in it. So, once again, check him out if you haven't already. Scream, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Saw, another one of my favorite horror movies of all time. More for the idea than the execution. I think the execution's only okay, but the movie it's a fun idea. Safety Last, once again, you see Criterion Collection on here because it's from 1923. So on movies like that, it really is worth it to get the Criterion Collection version. The Adventures of Robin Hood, the first or second movie that was live action that I was willing to watch as a kid. You know how little kids only want to watch animated movies about animals? I was that way too. And then the movies that brought me over into live action movies was The Adventures of Robin Hood and The Mark of Zorro, which was not only in live action but black and white. I do not currently have it here because it's at a friend's house, but those movies at a young age allowed me to open my mind up to a world of movies that even my older siblings refused to watch. The Princess Bride, one of the best movies ever made. Predestination, I just watched this for the first time recently. It is bizarre beyond belief. Definitely worth checking out, though. It's really weird, but really interesting, and can really throw you for a loop, honestly. Platoon, one of the best war movies of all time. Definitely in my top 5 favorite war movies of all time. Really good. Pan's Labyrinth, a very odd movie. Again, my favorite by Guillermo del Toro. I don't know what to say about it. It's just really weird, but I enjoy it. On the Waterfront, another Marlon Brando classic right there. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, another brilliant performance by Jack Nicholson. It's also great directing by Milos Forman. Of Mice and Men, I have 2 of the versions again here. The 2 best versions, I think, in my opinion. The one from the 90s, 92, and this one is from sometime. It's old. And there's a sticker covering the year it came out. But it's old. Is anybody going to watch this? People are going to think this is garbage. The Night Before, another Christmas movie that is on my yearly watch list. I will watch this with my 2 best friends every year on December 23rd. Forever. Until we die. So, whenever that happens. Murder, He Says, one of the best comedies ever made. It really doesn't get talked about enough, and I don't think you can get a Criterion Collection version of it. My version's definitely not high quality, and I don't know if there is a high quality one out there, which kind of sucks because it is a really, 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 really good movie. The Miracle on 34th Street. Don't watch the remake. Watch that one. It's so good. Joker, from the director that brought you the Hangover trilogy. It's very good. It's better if you haven't seen Scorsese films, but it's still good, even if you have. Jaws, I don't love it as much as I'm supposed to, but it is enjoyable. I've got the It's, the original, and then the 2 new ones. Sue Me, I like the original one better, not because I think it's better made, but because I think it's worse made, and which I think suits Stephen King's works better. It makes it more entertaining. Plus, Tim Curry is just so much fun. Invisible Man, it's another movie that I bought partially because I saw a clip on Instagram, but partially because it is just a classic, and the special effects are just so ridiculously good. It's, for the time, it's amazing to think about the fact that it was made in the era it was made, where people had to cut and paste things on film, like literally cut and paste, and they were making a guy walk around without a head or hands. That's we're so spoiled with the effects we have nowadays. The Illusionist, it got drowned out because it came out the same time as The Prestige and had similar ideas and concepts, but it, although not as good as The Prestige, which is an amazing movie, it's still really good. The Green Book, my favorite film of whenever this came out, what was that, 2018? It was very good. I think it did win Best Picture. I know it kind of got a little bit of hate, like some people thought it was too shallow. I enjoyed it a lot though. Gone with the Wind, really long but really good and definitely worth the watch if you've got the patience for it. Glengarry Ross, this was shown to me by somebody who I had put out a question of, for the person who's seen every movie, what movie should I see? And they sent me that. So if you feel like you've seen every movie and you haven't seen that, you should check it out, because I hadn't seen of it. I hadn't even heard of it. Anyway, Galaxy Quest, it's hilarious whether or not you like Star Trek, but if you've seen Star Trek, it makes it even better. The Fountainhead, I'm a big Ayn Rand fan. Ernest and Celestine, probably my favorite animated movie ever. I love the animation style. I love the voice acting. I love the plot. I love everything about it. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, another classic. Double Indemnity, both smart and funny. Tense. It's got a lot of people from Murder, He Says in it too, actually. The Disaster Artist, I already talked about The Room. That's the making of The Room. Great movie. Cool Hand Luke, Paul Newman. Very entertaining. Clue, one of the funniest movies ever made as well. Also, in case you didn't know, fun fact there, they have several endings to the movie, and different endings were sent to different theaters when it came out, and nobody was told until after. Imagine if that happened today. That would be so much fun, except for social media would ruin it. Anyway, Casablanca, another fantastic movie with my boy Humphrey. The Brass Teapot, another phenomenal indie film that is, it's very different, it's very original, it's got Juno Temple in it. I'm a sucker for Juno Temple. All Quiet on the Western Front, another one of the greatest, heart-wrenching, hard-to-watch war movies of all time. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. And then you've got Alien and Aliens. I don't have any of the sequels beyond that because don't really care. And then I have the Marx Brothers movies. So I've got the collection, which for some reason only has the first 5, which is the Coconuts, Animal Crackers, Monkey Business, Horse Feathers, and Duck Soup. Of course, all great movies right there. Followed by, then I've got this separate collection: A Night at the Opera, Days at the Race, Room Service, At the Circus Go West, The Big Store, and A Night in Casablanca. They're all the same exact movie. None of the plots matter. They're just funny. And then here you get to see the rest of the Wee Sings. Yep. The only thing of note that I have to mention about these is that if you look closely, you'll actually see that the case is broken, because I actually threw this out the window for the video. I didn't pretend to. I actually threw it out the window. So, yep, it's a little beat up. Not apologizing for it. Alright, just had to make a little more room. I still don't think I have enough. I've got the Austin Powers trilogy here. Each movie, once again, is the exact same thing, but if you like the joke, you get to hear it multiple times. I've got the Naked Gun trilogy as well. Classic, of course. I've got a little Dr. Seuss collection here. Grew up on those, sucker for those. Also, I review them, so I figured I might as well buy them. Got my Jerry Lewis collection here. I already have Cinderella right here, but this also includes The Errand Boy, The Bellboy, The Delicate Delinquent, The Ladies' Man, The Nutty Professor, The Patsy, The Disorderly Orderly, The Family Jewels, and The Stooge. And then I have most of the movies he did with Dean Martin as well. This one's got That's My Boy, Sailor Beware, Scared Stiff, The Caddy, My Friend Irma Goes West, The Jumping Jacks, and The Stooge as well, because Dean Martin was in that. And then this one has Pardners, Hollywood or Bust, Living It Up, You're Never Too Young, and Artists and Models. There's still a few more that they did that aren't there, but oh well. Then I've got the Fatty Arbuckle collection here, which, in case you don't know, he was very big in getting Charlie Chaplin and other comedians like Buster Keaton started at that time. So I've got the Buster Keaton collection here, which has most of his movies. I've got Paleface, Daydreams, A Little Abner, Parlor, Bedroom, and Bath, Steamboat Bill Jr., The General, The Villain Still Pursued Her, and there's shorts on there as well. I don't have Sherlock Jr. yet. I ordered that and it never came, so I'm waiting for it still. I've got the Bob Hope and Bing Crosby collection, the Road to collection, which has got Road to Zanzibar, Road to Morocco, Road to Utopia, Road to Singapore, and then I've got the other two right here with the Road to Bali and Road to Rio. I think there's still one or two more that came out after that, but they're not considered good. And then I've got the Flying Deuces, which is a Laurel and Hardy classic. You can see how wonderfully it's packaged. It's because I'm pretty sure got that for free. I've got the Stan and Ollie movie, which is, of course, about Laurel and Hardy. And it's phenomenal if you like them, and it's even good if you don't. Then I've got this great, phenomenal collection of Laurel and Hardy that comes with, pretty sure, all of their movies. But if not most of their movies, it's also got some shorts on there, I believe, as well. Yes, lots of shorts. And it's just hours and hours and hours of content. It's a great set. Got it for fairly cheap considering how good it is. So if you want a set like that, definitely look for that. Babes in Toyland. And then moving over into Abbott and Costello, got Jack and the Beanstalk, which is very nostalgic for me. Definitely broke me into the Abbott and Costello. But right here I've got another great, phenomenal box set, which is quite literally a box, and then in each one of these you've got multiple movies and special features. There's a little booklet. So once again, if you're looking for a collection, you should get something like this. Really big fan of this. This is just a lot of fun. It's great to look at. It's all their Universal movies. So there's a couple missing from it that weren't from their Universal days, but it's got all their Universal movies in there. Next up, we've got the Three Stooges, which is quite the collection right here. So, first of all, I've got the Farrelly Brothers Three Stooges movie that came out in like 2012, and I actually enjoy it. I know it's not nearly as good or anything as the original Three Stooges, but it's still enjoyable in its own way. I've also got the TV movie that came out in like 2000, I think it was. That's got Will Sasso and a couple other guys in it. Also not great. It's not a remake or anything. It's a biopic. And it's okay. They really skim over a lot. They focus a lot on Mo rather than the rest of them. And it's okay. But anyway, I've got the Three Stooges movie pack. This has the Stooges go around the world in a daze. The Outlaws is coming, Rockin' the Rockies. Three Stooges meet Hercules. Time Out for Rhythm. Have Rocket Will Travel. I've also got the Three Stooges meet Snow White, or Snow White and the Three Stooges. And then I've got their last movie, or last couple movies, I think, on their collection I have over there that I didn't bother putting over here because I didn't realize I needed it until just now. And then, of course, I've got the collection of every single one of their shorts from 34 to 59, which is a ton of shorts. Sidebar, big fan of Shemp. Shemp's underrated. And then I've got their first ever movie, which was from before they were called The Three Stooges. It was a Ted Healy film called Soup to Nuts, featuring Shemp Howard, Harry Howard, and Larry Fine. Harry Howard? Harry Howard? Mo Howard is called Harry Howard on the cover of this. I never caught that until today. You witnessed something new, guys. Alright, and then I've got the Beatles movies, A Hard Day's Night, Help, and Yellow Submarine. I know they had one other TV movie. I don't have that. I just have their theatrically released movies. Then here we've got my Nicolas Cage collection. As I mentioned, I have Mom and Dad, The Wicker Man, the unrated version, of course, Face Off, National Treasure, Deadfall, and Vampire's Kiss. So you might notice that I enjoy Nicolas Cage for his bizarre performances more so than his actually good ones. You will notice that I did have National Treasure in there, which is one of his good movies, but I definitely prefer his bad over his good. Then I've got the Matrix trilogy right here. I think only the first one's actually that good, but I still have the full trilogy because I just hate not completing stories. Then I've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. I've got the CGI one that came out in 2007. And then I've also got the 80s to 90s trilogy that was to mixed results. Then I've got a Clint Eastwood, The Man with No Name trilogy, which they're fun movies. I know some people treat them like they're really just great classics. I think that's probably going a little too far, but they're definitely fun and worth watching. Then over here, I've talked before about how I'm not a big superhero movie fan, but these are the superhero movies that I like. So I've got the X-Men, X-Men 2, the X-Men prequel trilogy, and Logan. I know there's more X-Men movies than that. These are the only ones that I actually want to ever watch. So I like those ones. Even the whole prequel trilogy isn't that good in its entirety, but it was cheaper to buy the trilogy. I've got V for Vendetta, which is a very good movie. I've got Superman the movie, 2, 3, 4, and then the Richard Donner cut of 2, in case you don't know. Richard Donner was the director of the first one, and he was directing the second one, but got fired partway through, and his movie was kind of scrapped partially. So he came back later and edited together what he had because he had it mostly finished, and then kind of finished it the way he wanted it. So then I've got also the original Spider-Man trilogy, the Sam Raimi collection, trilogy, whatever you want to call it. Still my favorite Spider-Man movies. Kick-Ass, which is one of the most original superhero movies we got. It's like tongue-in-cheek, like being aware that being a superhero isn't as pretty as it's made out to be in movies, but also still completely unbelievable, but in a fun way. Got Iron Man, which to me is still the best MCU movie ever made. Hellboy 1 and 2, which I think are underrated. They're definitely goofy in some ways, but they're really enjoyable, especially the second one. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, I've said before that I actually kind of like the second one better because it's more original, it's more different. I don't know if it's as well made, but it's definitely more original. Like the first time I watched the first one, I was honestly bored. And I wasn't bored at all for the second one. The Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer, awful. Really bad. But it's got Jessica Alba in it. Plus, I watched it as a kid. Deadpool, really like the first one. Wish they did more with it. The plot, once again, is really boring. Wish they did something more interesting with the characters they had, but oh well. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the trilogy, the original ones. I did order the David Fincher one at one point, but it never came. Haven't seen it yet. So I don't know how they compare, but I'm interested. So I've got the Frankenstein collection here, which comes with Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, The Ghost of Frankenstein, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which I also have in the Abbott and Costello collection. But so a lot of Frankenstein movies. Are they all good? Probably not. I haven't watched most of them yet, but I'll get to them. Then I've got the 3 and only Indiana Jones movies. It came with the collection I had, which also has a bunch of really cool special features and behind the scenes and stuff like that. Once again, I didn't think that was worth showing, but I'm talking about it anyway, so I don't know why I didn't bring it over. Then I've got the greatest Star Wars movie of all time, the Star Wars Holiday Special. It's a classic. Then I've got both trilogies and the only trilogies of Star Wars right here. Unfortunately, this is like the 90s edit of the original one because I didn't want to spend $50, $60 to get the despecialized version. But yeah, oh well. I'm definitely a purist when it comes to Star Wars. Like, I already think that Star Wars isn't as great as most people say it is, but if I'm going to watch and enjoy Star Wars, I want it as close to the originals as possible. Then I've got the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which is still the best fantasy movies ever made, let alone fantasy trilogy ever made. It's just pretty darn close to flawless in every way. So I've got the Harry Potter franchise here, which I already did, and on second thought for all of these, but in case you didn't watch those yet, you should. But so I really like the first half of the franchise. I think the second half of the franchise is okay. Definitely doesn't let me down as a viewer. Like, I still got to see the rest of the story that I want to know, but definitely like the first 4 more than the second 4, if that makes sense. All right, moving right along. You guys asked for this. I don't know why you wanted it. You guys asked for this. Alright, so I've got the Mad Max quadrilogy. I watched the first one, I watched the fourth one first, so I probably like that one the most. The trilogy is weird, but not as weird as this one. I kind of still don't entirely understand how they connect, but they're fun, so whatever. I've got the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. Easily, I think everybody is established at this point. The first one's the best one, and the rest of them are okay at best. And for me, the second and the third one are pretty good, and I won't go past that, because the fourth one is awful, and I haven't bothered watching the fifth. Or is there, I don't even know if there's more than 5, but I haven't watched any of them past the fourth one, because they don't deserve my time. And I've got the Hunger Games quadrilogy as well. They're okay. As far as teen novel adaptions go, it's probably the second best after Harry Potter. There's not a lot of good ones, but they're okay. And Jennifer Lawrence, like I said, is a good actress, so it's fun to see her. Then I've got my version of the Rocky collection, where I only, once again, Philadelphia, gotta rep it, and I do love these movies, but I only really watch Rocky, Rocky 2, Balboa, and Creed. I know Creed doesn't really make that much sense without actually seeing Apollo Creed die, but definitely not really a fan of any of the Rockies in between here. But yeah, these ones are great and are all classics in my mind. Then we've got the Star Treks. So I've got the Star Trek Next Generation collection. There's got all 4 of those movies on here. I also have the other collection that is the same setup type as this. That's all of the original movies, but once again, it's at a friend's house. So I've got all those, and then I've got the first of the new ones, and that's honestly probably the only one I'm going to get of the new ones. Not a huge fan of those, but I am a fan of, I am definitely a Trekkie. A lot of people, and you know, there's the big fight, Star Trek or Star Wars, which is better. I would pick Star Trek, but I still enjoy both, so don't fight me. Plus, if we're being honest, they're different genres anyway, so why does it matter? Moving along, we've got the Die Hard trilogy right here. It's a fun set. Also, another thing that I choose to believe is just a trilogy, because the first and the third one are good and the second one's okay. Beyond that, we don't need to move beyond that. Next, we've got, aside from Home Alone, this is my John Hughes collection, because I've got Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and The Breakfast Club. John Hughes, I can review all of his movies at the same time because they're all the same thing. They're all good ideas with pretty good execution, but you just wish that he rewrote the scripts a couple more times, because he's on record as saying that he only writes a script once and he doesn't do a single rewrite, and you can see it in all of his movies, and you kind of just wonder why he didn't rewrite it. So then we've got Ted. I also have A Million Ways to Die in the West at a friend's house. But yeah, I actually really like Seth MacFarlane as a director. If he does more movies, I definitely will watch them. Not a huge Family Guy fan, but I've liked his movies, so he should do more. Of course, Napoleon Dynamite got a rep, and then Nacho Libre. I didn't like when I first saw it, but then I went on a trip to Mexico when I was in college, and one of my friends convinced all of the kids at the orphanage that my name was Nacho Libre, so that kind of stuck, and it's become kind of just a guilty pleasure of mine since. I quote it all the time. I don't have a great Jack Black impression, but people always want me to do one because I look like him, apparently. So I love Nacho Libre because of that, and Napoleon Dynamite's also just a fantastic movie, if you ask me. If you don't know, they're both directed by Jared Hess, who has not made a good movie since, unfortunately, but whatever. Moving on, we've actually got the Coen Brothers series here, which I don't have a lot of their movies. I guess I do, but I've got Hail Caesar, which is not their best, but it's definitely enjoyable. No Country for Old Men, which doesn't really feel like a Coen Brothers movie, but it's definitely really good. An instant classic, says David Assen. That's pretty accurate. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which is definitely my favorite movie by them. Fargo, which is good. The Big Lebowski, which is definitely my second favorite movie by them. Barton Fink, and Raising Arizona. And then moving right along to a different favorite director, I've got Sidney Lumet here, which I can't really say that he's a favorite director because I only have 2 movies by him, but the 2 movies are Network and 12 Angry Men, which, I mean, I know that I've only seen 2 movies, once again, Criterion Collection. You gotta. But those two movies are so goddamn good that, like, I don't really care what else he's directed. If they all suck, I don't care. Those two movies are amazing. Moving along, I'm entering into my foreign directors category. So, first up is Jaco van Domer's Mr. Nobody. It's the only movie I've seen by him so far, but it is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I also bought The Brand New Testament, which is one of his other highest rated movies on IMDb. Haven't watched it yet, but I thought it sounded interesting, looked interesting, and had a high rating. So there's that. I've got my movies by my probably favorite up-and-coming director, Taika Waititi, and I get it. He's not up-and-coming that much, but he's just now beginning to get really popular. So I've got Jojo Rabbit, which is one of the best movies ever made. If I went back and redid the top 100 movies of all time list, it might be on there. I've got Hunt for the Wilder People, and I've got What We Do in the Shadows. So I'm a huge fan of him. He's really up-and-coming, and he also helped make, where is it? Flight of the Conchords, which I also have here, which, not a huge fan of the TV show. I think it's a fine TV show. I think it's funny, but then their comedy special for HBO is one of the best comedy shows I've ever seen, ever. And then I've also got Solaris here, which I believe is a Russian film. I've got Pandora's Box, which is a very classic film. I've got Parasite, which, like I said, I think it was a little overrated from how people reacted this year. Definitely shouldn't have won Best Picture, but was still very enjoyable. I've got Greed, which I'm very excited for. And then I've got my Federico Fellini collection here, which starts with 8.5, which is one of the greatest movies ever made. It is phenomenal. He also made some of these other movies. La Dolce Vita, Knights of Cabria, La Strada. And then we move over into Alain Resnais with Mon Oncle d'Amérique. Last year at Marienbad, which is one of, hands down, the best movies ever made. It inspired Christopher Nolan. I believe he's mentioned it as one of his favorite movies of all time, and I understand why. It is phenomenal. And also Hiroshima Mon Amour. And then moving over into Ingmar Bergman, we have Wild Strawberries. And The Seventh Seal, also once again Criterion Collection. You gotta. He Who Gets Slapped, which is Victor Schulstrom, who also directed The Phantom Carriage. Criterion, you gotta do it. And then you've got The Man Who Laughs, which, in case you don't know, directly inspired the original Joker. You've got the original Dracula. And then we've got some F.W. Murnau movies here with Sunrise, which, if you just watch this camera work, you would have no idea it came out in the 20s. It looks like it came out in the 40s. It's absolutely brilliantly made. We've got Faust, and we've got Nosferatu, the original Dracula movie. And then we have the first horror movie ever made, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is phenomenal and creepy. It's a different kind of horror than we're used to now, but if you're into classic movies, you'll love it. Then we've got multiple different versions of The Phantom of the Opera. We have the original Lon Chaney silent film version, which is good, but it came out obviously before the musical because it was a silent film. And I really think that the best part about the story is the music. So I've got the 25th anniversary Broadway version, and then I've also got the Joel Schumacher version. And then here I have a bunch of different versions of Treasure Island because I'm a sucker for stories that get remade a million times and just comparing all of them. I've also got more than just this one because I also have the Muppet Treasure Island version. So I've got the Eddie Izzard one, I've got the Orson Welles one, I have the Walt Disney one, and I have the Wallace Beery and Jackie Cooper one. I also have the Muppet one. I also have the Christian Bale one, and I also have Treasure Planet. So I've got pretty much all of the important ones, and I haven't watched all of them yet, but I plan to, and maybe even rank them, like I did with A Christmas Carol. Speaking of A Christmas Carol, I've got some of my favorite ones right here with the Patrick Stewart one, the of course Alastair Sim one, and then the George C. Scott one. So moving right along, we have the Pink Panther collection, which it's the MGM collection. So if you don't know what that means, it means it's actually missing 3 of the movies. One of which is right here with The Return of the Pink Panther. It was made under a different production company. It also is missing the one where Peter Sellers did not play Clouseau. He was played by Alan Arkin, and it didn't go well. But then eventually Peter Sellers came back because he needed the money. And then there's also a movie on here that was filmed partially after he died, where they used a lot of clips of his old movies and just whatever they had left over. And then there was one other one that they made right after that with his son. Not his real son, but the Clouseau character's son that did not do well. And then, of course, there was the Steve Martin ones, but we don't talk about that. These movies, however, are some of the best comedies ever made. And another reason that I'm so into film, because I just there's so much nostalgia to me with this, where I just think of watching it with my family, and that's why you love movies, man. It's for stuff like that. And then here we've got my Muppet collection. I'm gonna buy all of them eventually. There is one missing from here. I've got the Muppet movie, the Muppets Take Manhattan, Muppet Treasure Island, the Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppets from Space, It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, and the Muppets. I also have the Muppet Caper. I have that one somewhere, but it's not here. But yeah, so I love the Muppets. I'm not gonna get the other movies. I actually think not all of the other movies. I mean, because I don't really have any desire to get the new Muppets movie. I forget what it was called. Muppets Most Wanted. I don't really want that. And then like the Muppets Wizard of Oz was god awful, so I don't really ever plan to buy that one. Maybe I will. Who knows? And then I've got Mr. Bean's Holiday and Bean the Movie and Johnny English all together. And then The Best of Mr. Bean. Nostalgia, that's all it is. I don't want to pretend that it's highbrow or that it was really well made or anything, but it's nostalgia and it's goofy and it's fun. Then I've got the Wallace and Gromit in 3 Amazing Adventures, which is a Close Shave, The Wrong Trousers, and A Grand Day Out, which I think are the first 3 they made, and they're probably the best 3. Once again, just nostalgia. I don't really watch it at all often, but I enjoy it. I mean, they did win, 2 out of the 3 won an Oscar. One of them got nominated. So, I mean, they're good shorts. They're just silly, though. And then I've got The Simpsons right here. I only have 1 season because I'm not, like I said, really big into TV shows. So even though I really do like The Simpsons, and I think it's probably one of the best TV shows of all time, I just haven't really gotten around to buying more than that. But one of the shows I have is The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I've got the whole collection right here. So since I don't generally watch TV shows, the ones that I do watch, I do want to get the collections because I do view them as important, just as important as any movie. So The Fresh Prince is one of those shows that it really did impact me as a kid, and I do like it a lot. So speaking of TV shows I love, I've got the Rocky and Bullwinkle Season 1 right here, which is definitely really impactful on me as a kid. I always loved Rocky and Bullwinkle, but I even more loved the shorts that were in between the Rocky and Bullwinkle episodes, where you've got Dudley Do-Right and, you know, the Fractured Fairy Tales and all that stuff. It's just, I think it really, really spoke to my sense of humor and really helped define my sense of humor. And then we've got the Flight of the Conchords, which I already talked about. Final Space, gotta rep my boy Olin Rogers. He's one of my favorite YouTubers of all time, and he's become successful outside of the YouTube world, and that's really something that I think every YouTuber looks up to and says, like, wow, look at them. They're doing something actually genuinely great, and he is. I will never stop supporting my boy Olin Rogers. Then I've got Seasons 1 and 2 of Rick and Morty. I haven't watched Season 4 yet, and Season 3 was okay. I really thought Season 1 and 2 were something special, and wasn't a huge fan of Season 3, and like I said, I haven't even gotten around to Season 4 yet. Like I said, I'm non-committal with TV shows, and this is why. Because one of my favorite TV shows of all time was so good, and I saw it start to get worse, and I was like, I don't want to anymore. So I'll have to get around to Season 4 eventually, but it definitely scared me. And here's another case in point on why I hate TV shows. This is Season 1. And that's the only season I'm going to buy because How I Met Your Mother had a great premise that they absolutely destroyed in the last season. So my headcanon is that he ends up with the cake girl, Victoria. So that's my headcanon, and so I'm leaving it at Season 1. And I love the rest of the seasons except for the last one, but I'm just leaving it with headcanon because, yes, I'm OCD like that. So Tintin the movie. I hate it, kind of. I kind of do, but I own it because I absolutely love Tintin. I grew up reading, especially the last 3 books, because I had that collection. Now I own all of them, but as a kid I didn't until a little bit later, until like middle school I owned more of them. But since I was like able to read, I was reading those comics and I was obsessed with them, and I always wanted to make them into a movie. So when this came out, I was like, yes, we're finally getting a movie. And then it sucked and it was really heartbreaking. And then I found out just this year that there is a very well thought of TV show, and I haven't watched it yet. It's still in the box and I'm a little scared, but everything I've read about it is that it is in every way as good as the books, and I'm just I want to watch it. It was very expensive to get the 3rd season for some reason. I accidentally bought just the first 2 seasons because that's all I could find, and then I found out that there was a 3rd season, which specifically has the books that I read so much as a kid. So I had to buy the 3rd season, but then it was like $50 or $60 to get just the 3rd season. So then I spent $50 to get the other 2 or all 3 seasons together, and then I'm giving the other ones to my nephews because they will know how good Tintin was. But yeah, so anyway, it's one of those things where it's nostalgia in a different way, where I grew up reading those, and it's something that in a roundabout way got me into movies, because they aren't movies, they're books. But as a kid, I was thinking, I can't wait to make this into a movie, and I never got to. Obviously somebody else did, but it's still something that is in my head of like, it just impacted me. Next, we've got the Batman movies. So, of course, we got to start with the classic of all classics, Batman the movie, which is obviously as most tongue-in-cheek as you can get. It's funny, it's goofy, but it's self-aware, and that's what makes it great. Then we've got the 89 Batman movie. Then we've got Batman Returns, which it's at a friend's house. And then I've got Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, which I am actually currently going through on second thought right now. So if you're interested in a more thorough review, you should just watch those. Then I've got The Batman, the complete first season, which I just reviewed. I've got Batman Beyond, which is another thing I reviewed not too long ago. It's okay, it's not great. And then I've got Batman the Animated Series, seasons 1 through 4. Of course, seasons 1 through 3 are absolutely amazing. And season 4, although not as good, is still pretty good. The animation's obviously way worse, but it's still very watchable. And then you move on into my wonderful world of Scooby-Doo. As a kid, that I had a goal to own every Scooby-Doo movie. I ran out of money, though. Now, I have started adding to it again, and I probably will own every Scooby-Doo movie eventually. Scooby-Doo is one of the biggest impacts, one of the biggest impactful things as far as movies go, TV shows go as a kid. And obviously to so many people, because as I pointed out before, it's been remade more than any other TV show in the history of TV. So obviously it's speaking to people. So I've got Scooby-Doo Where Are You? Seasons 1 through 3. I've got Scooby-Doo Meets Batman, Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo, Scooby-Doo Goes Hollywood, Scooby-Doo's All-Star Laugh Olympics, which I didn't review because I didn't have it until somebody sent it to me. Somebody just sent it to me, so maybe I have to review it. Maybe I have to review it now. Maybe that's fate. I don't know, but I haven't reviewed it yet. Anyway, I've got the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo Meets the Boo Brothers, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf, which is one of the worst Scooby-Doo movies ever made. I actually bought this when I was collecting movies before, sold it because it was so bad, and then recently rebought it because I was like, wait, I have to review it. So bad, you buy it twice. Then I've got Scooby-Doo and the Arabian Nights, which I'm not going to review every Scooby-Doo movie. I'm just doing the important ones, or the impactful ones, or the ones that have some sort of history attached to it. So Scooby-Doo and Arabian Nights, for instance, I have because I'm going to review it, and also because it's Don Messick's last portrayal of Scooby-Doo, which is sad. I think he may have been in a video game after that, but this is the last movie for sure. And then Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island, The Witch's Ghost, Alien Invasion, Cyber Chase, live action Monsters Unleashed, What's New Scooby-Doo, Legend of the Vampire and the Loch Ness Monster, and Where's My Mummy, and then the awful live action movies, The Mystery Begins and Curse of the Lake Monster. I haven't even watched The Curse of the Lake Monster yet, but I know I'm going to review it because it's considered even worse than the other, The Mystery Begins, which was so bad. I think there was probably 2 good jokes in the whole movie, so I can't wait to review that. Obviously, when I say I can't wait to review that, I'm going to review that in a couple of years. So bear with me. I'm getting to all of these guys. I know you guys want me to review them, so I'll get to them. Moving right along. So I've got here at the bottom a joint thing with like Jimmy Stewart and Frank Capra. So I've got Harvey, Anatomy of a Murder, The Man Who Shot Liberty Vance, Mr. D Goes to Town, You Can't Take It With You, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, It's a Wonderful Life, It Happened One Night. So those are all either Jimmy Stewart movies or Frank Capra. Jimmy Stewart's one of my favorite actors of all time, and Frank Capra is one of the greatest directors of all time. And then we've got 8th Grade, which is Bo Burnham's only movie he's directed so far. I'm a huge fan of Bo Burnham. I would have all of his stand-up routines on DVD here if he sold them like that, but he doesn't. But he's an amazing comic. He's a great director and writer based on that one movie, and I hope he does more in the future. Then we've got Get Out and Us, which are Jordan Peele's 2 horror movies he made. Once again, I hope he does more. Then we are moving right along to Robert Zemeckis, where we've got the Back to the Future trilogy, and then we've got Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Forrest Gump. Robert Zemeckis is a very inconsistent director, but when he's good, he's great, and these are some of his best movies right there. Unpopular opinion, maybe not so much. I don't like Back to the Future 2 and 3 really at all. Those are, if I watch them, it's for nostalgia, if anything, but the first one is a genuinely good movie. Next, we've got Arrival, Blade Runner 2049. It's another, that's Denis Villeneuve, who is directing the new Dune movie that's coming out, which I'm very excited for. And once again, I haven't seen a lot of his movies, but everything I've seen is very exciting, so I can't wait to see the rest of his movies and anything else that he does in the future. Then we've got Spike Jonze, who I found out because of Her, the movie Her, which was very good, and I'll get to that later, but these are his other movies that I own, which is Being John Malkovich, Adaption, Where the Wild Things Are. And then moving right along, we've got some weird movies in The Elephant Man and Eraserhead. So they're definitely weird movies, but they're movies you just gotta get. And then we move right along to Michael Crichton is either my favorite or second favorite author. In case you don't know who he is, he wrote Jurassic Park. And like I already mentioned, I love Ayn Rand, and it's between them because they're obviously so different, it's hard to compare. But anyway, a lot of Michael Crichton's books have been turned into movies, some of which he even directed himself. So I have a bunch of them. I've got Andromeda's Strain, Westworld, the movie, not the TV show, although obviously he wrote the Westworld, so then the TV show is based off his work as well. Terminal Man, Coma, The Great Train Robbery, Sphere, Jurassic Park, and Timeline. Now, not all of those movies are good. In fact, some of them are really bad, like Timeline. But I just enjoy his stories, so even though they're not always presented well, I still enjoy the stories, and some of them are really good, such as Jurassic Park. It's a great movie. It's not the most accurate adaptation of his book, but it's still very enjoyable. And then moving right along, we've got the David Cronenberg selection, which he's another very weird director, and to be honest, I haven't even watched all of these movies yet, but I'm very into the weirdness. And it's one of those things where it's like Terry Gilliam, which I mentioned earlier, where it's like he passes the line in every movie of weirdness. But in that area before he passes, it's very entertaining. So I've got Scanners, The Fly, Dead Ringers, which was very hard to find for some reason, Spider, A History of Violence, Eastern Promises, and A Dangerous Method. And then I've also got Halloween, The Thing, Scarface, and Casualties of War. So as you can kind of see, we're getting into like categories again here. And so these are directors that I like, but not good enough to put on my like favorite shelf or anything. And then moving over here, if you can see this still, I move into my Christian Bale category. So Christian Bale is, aside from Jim Carrey, I've said many times Jim Carrey is my favorite actor of all time, and a big part of that is his range between being able to do drama so well and do comedy so well. But if you're asking me who's the best dramatic actor of this generation, Christian Bale, without a doubt, would be my answer. So I've got my collection here that starts with Empire of the Sun, the Treasure Island movie I talked about earlier, American Psycho, Equilibrium, The Machinist, The Fighter, American Hustle, Out of the Furnace, and Hostiles. So a lot of those are fairly well known. Not all of them are great movies, but I buy movies that he's good in, which is the majority of, if not all of his movies, he's usually good. And then Hostiles in particular is a movie that not a lot of people know about, but is really, really good and more people should see it. Then moving right along, we've got my Scarlett Johansson collection, which Scarlett Johansson is my favorite actress of all time. I think she's really underrated. A lot of people think of her as just Black Widow or just a hot girl with a pretty face. Like, they don't think of her as a legitimate actress, but based on Jojo Rabbit, based on her, based on... I don't know. She's in so many great movies. Under the Skin. I'll just go through these. So, Manny and Lowe, Ghost World, Lost in Translation, A Love Song for Bobby Long. The Island isn't a good movie. Match Point, Scoop, Under the Skin, Her, Chef, Marriage Story. So she's a phenomenal actress who's got tremendous range. She's been recently typecast into this superhero role that isn't to her strengths, in my opinion. But if you look at her performance in like Marriage Story or Her, or like I said, Jojo Rabbit, she is a phenomenal, phenomenal actress. So she's my favorite actress of all time. And moving right along, we've got The Birdman and Revenant. Just phenomenal movies. I don't know what else to say. And that segues us right into my Tom Hardy collection, which has Bronson, Lawless, Locke, and Venom. There's a couple other Tom Hardy movies spread out throughout my collection that are also in just different categories, but Bronson is a phenomenal movie. It's probably his best acting performance, and it's just a phenomenal movie. Lawless is really entertaining, and Locke is not the most entertaining movie, but it's a very artistic movie. It's just him driving his car for 90 minutes on the phone with different people, so it's a practice in a one-man, like, Broadway production type thing, but it's a movie instead. And I've heard people complain about that. I understand why, but it definitely was an experiment that I think paid off in that it is still somehow entertaining based on that premise. You wouldn't think it would be, but it is. Moving right along, that takes me into the Shia LaBeouf section, which Shia LaBeouf has a bit of a reputation, but I still think he's a phenomenal actor. So I've got Holes, Fury, and The Peanut Butter Falcon, and of course he's also in Lawless. And then he's also in iRobot, which is right up here in my Will Smith collection, who is from West Philadelphia, which is where I am from. So I've got Independence Day, Men in Black, Enemy of the State, Ali, Men in Black 2, iRobot, Hitch, The Pursuit of Happiness, I Am Legend, Hancock, and Collateral Beauty. So Will Smith is another actor that he isn't always in great movies, but he's usually really good. And he's obviously an actor that people have gone to see his movies for years simply because he was in it, because he's just that kind of actor. Whether it's comedy, whether it's action or whatever, it's not always a great movie, but you'll want to see the movie just because he's in it. Moving right along to what should have probably been the first stack I went through, but I'm bad at planning ahead. We've got my Jim Carrey collection. So I own every Jim Carrey starring role movie. So if it's not here, it's because it's at somebody's house or was in a different collection somewhere else, like Batman Forever, which is over here instead of over there because that took precedent. I don't know why. Anyway, or The Majestic, which is with the Frank Darabont. Anyway, so I've got Once Bitten, Earth Girls Are Easy, Doing Time on Maple Drive, Ace Ventura Pet Detective, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura When Nature Calls, The Cable Guy, Liar Liar, The Truman Show, Man on the Moon, Me, Myself, and Irene, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Bruce Almighty, A Series of Unfortunate Events, Fun with Dick and Jane, The Number 23, Horton Hears a Who, Yes Man, A Christmas Carol, another one, which is also Robert Zemeckis, by the way, I Love You, Philip Morris, Mr. Popper's Penguins, The Incredible Burt Wonderstone, Dumb and Dumber 2, Dark Crimes, and Sonic the Movie. So, I am going through all of these on second thought at the moment. I took a brief intermission to do the Batmans because Batman Forever is a Jim Carrey movie, so I didn't feel like I could do the other Batmans. But anyway, so I will get to all of these in a more deep review, but most of these are really good movies. Not all of them are, obviously. I bought the movies just because he was in it, such as Dumb and Dumber 2, which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Sonic is also not good. Dark Crimes is not good. Mr. Popper's Penguins is not good, but he does a lot of good movies, even the movies that aren't as well known. Like I Love You, Philip Morris is good. The Number 23 isn't great, but it's definitely entertaining still. Man on the Moon has more recognition now because of like that whole Netflix behind the scenes thing that they did. The Cable Guy. So many great movies. Doing Time on Maple Drive. So, yeah, favorite actor of all time for a reason. I'm not pretending that he's the best actor of all time, but he's also definitely a great actor and doesn't always get that recognition. Moving right along to one of my other favorite actors of all time, another one that has such a great dual threat is Robin Williams. So you start off with Popeye, The World According to Garp, Good Morning Vietnam, Dead Poet Society, Awakenings, Hook, Mrs. Doubtfire, Jumanji, The Birdcage, Good Will Hunting, Jacob the Liar, Death to Smoochie, Man of the Year, and World's Greatest Dad. So he's another actor that I could watch pretty much anything as long as he's in it. He doesn't always pick the best movies, but he's always going to put out a great performance, whether it's comedy or drama or whatever it is. And so movies like The World's Greatest Dad, it's not a great movie, but I really related to the movie and I really enjoyed the movie because of Robin Williams. And Man of the Year, like the first half of the movie is fantastic and then the second half of the movie isn't. But anyway, so I just really enjoy his catalog, whether it's drama or comedy. I just think he's one of the best actors of all time. Now, you might think that we're done because I finished this, but we've got one more section to do here really quick. Alrighty then. Let's get on with it. So, I've got my collection right here of Disney movies. I do not have every single animated Disney movie, but I have most of them because I am going to review all of them eventually. So I bought all the ones that I wanted right now, and I'll get the other ones later. So, of course, you start off with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which, like I already mentioned, was the first full-length animated movie in America. Then you've got Pinocchio. Also, as I mentioned, I've reviewed some of these already, like Fantasia. So if you haven't seen these reviews, go ahead and check them out if you want to see me get very drunk. Dumbo. And, of course, Bambi. Am I on screen yet? Almost. Fun and Fancy Free, which is the last Disney one I did. And then the next one that I'm going to be doing is The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. So that one's next up. So that one should be coming, in theory, sometime soon. But then you've also got Cinderella. You've got Alice in Wonderland. You've got Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp, Sleeping Beauty, 101 Dalmatians, The Sword and the Stone, Jungle Book, The Aristocats, Robin Hood, another one of my absolute favorite movies of all time as a kid because, like I said, I already loved the live-action Robin Hood, so you take that and then you have talking animals? Even better! Then you've got The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh is one of the biggest things as a childhood. Like, if you were asking me what the most influential things as a kid were, to me, it would be Scooby-Doo, Winnie the Pooh, Blue's Clues would be like top three, no doubt. The Rescuers, The Fox and the Hound, The Black Cauldron, also huge for me as a kid. I know it was like one of the biggest monetary failures in the history of Disney, but I loved it. The Great Mouse Detective. Haven't watched this yet. Didn't grow up watching it. I bought it because I'm curious, and I'm gonna have to review it eventually. I probably won't watch it until I review it though. So buying it this early was kind of pointless. Oliver and Company, The Little Mermaid, of course. The Little Mermaid, my first and my last love. The Rescuers Down Under, which was, by the way, the first Disney animated sequel to be released in theaters. Beauty and the Beast, just Aladdin, The Lion King, of course. Okay, The Lion King, I literally watched every day for a section of my life. Like, I feel bad for my mom because I wasn't the only sibling that was obsessed with it. I had several siblings that were obsessed with this, and we watched The Lion King. She probably has seen The Lion King upwards of like 5,000 times. I'm not even joking. Pocahontas, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Mulan, Tarzan, The Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis. Like I said, most of these, if I haven't seen it, obviously that's excluded, but the rest of these I loved as a kid and rewatched as a kid, other than like Cinderella and Bambi. But like, especially as we get lower, like I loved Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Hunchback, Hercules, Mulan, Tarzan, New Groove, Atlantis, especially Atlantis. We've got Fantasia 2000 right here, if you can't see that. Lilo and Stitch. One of my earliest memories was actually in theaters was watching this because I actually went to see it because my older sister was going to go see Scooby-Doo. the live action one. But I wasn't allowed to go see it because it looked too scary. That should give you a good idea for how old I am. And so I was really bummed. So my mom took me and my other sister to go see Lilo and Stitch, which we also very much enjoyed. Treasure Planet, which I really enjoyed as well. Brother Bear, Wreck-It Ralph. So there's a bit of a leap there because, as you can kind of tell, I'm not into the new Disney movies so much. Wreck-It Ralph is the only one that I actually legitimately like from that era. And then we move to the Disney home releases. So we've got Return of Jafar, which I need to rewatch because I remember as a kid, that was my favorite Aladdin movie. And I've heard everybody in the world tell me that it's not good at all. So I need to rewatch it, but it was my favorite one as a kid. And then King of Thieves, which I've only seen probably once or twice in my entire life. I didn't grow up with that. I only saw it because of somebody else. Winnie the Pooh's Grand Adventure. For a time was also my favorite movie as a kid. I watched that so many times and would crack up laughing every time. Buzz Lightyear Star Command, The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, The Lion King 1.5, Gulliver's Travels, I already mentioned, I have that on VHS. Bugville, awful, but great at the same time. The Brave Little Toaster, Toy Story, A Bug's Life, we're in Pixar now by the way, Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Cars, don't have Toy Story 3 yet, I'll get that eventually, Ratatouille, WALL-E, and then we move into the Don Bluth category. So in case you don't know who Don Bluth is, he used to work for Disney as an animator, and then when he didn't get promoted to the director of animation, he left and went and made The Secret of Nim, An American Tail, The Land Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Rockadoodle, Thumbelina, A Troll in Central Park, The Pebble and the Penguin, Anastasia, Bartok the Magnificent, and Titan A.E. So, in other words, he made a lot of really good movies for a little bit, and then made some bad movies for a while, and then, so a lot of the times when you are confused, wait, I thought Thumbelina was a Disney princess, or I thought Anastasia was a Disney princess. It's because he had the Disney animation style, because he was the best animator at Disney for a section of time, including like The Fox and the Hound and other movies like that. So those characters kind of translated over because you didn't realize it, but you were watching Don Bluth that whole time. Moving on, we've got DreamWorks, we've got The Road to El Dorado, which is one of the best kids movies ever made. Don't at me, it is. We've got Chicken Run, same thing, it's really good. We've got Shrek, Shrek 2, Shark Tale, another underrated classic right here. We've got Madagascar, Flushed Away, Shrek the Third, one of the worst movies ever made. Really, really bad. It's not funny at all. Kung Fu Panda, Madagascar, Escape to Africa, Megamind, which is better in every way than Despicable Me. If you say otherwise, you're wrong. Moving on, we've got the Warner Brothers movies, which despite being thought of as a really big competition for Disney back in the old days, you think, oh, well, you had Mickey Mouse and you had Bugs Bunny. Yeah, well, Warner Brothers actually didn't put out their first full-length feature film, animated feature film, until Batman Mask of Phantasm, which was in the 90s. Then they also did Cats Don't Dance, Quest for Camelot, The Iron Giant, the Batman and Superman movie, the Lego movie. So they got late to the game and haven't done a whole lot still, honestly, but what they've done has been good. Then I've also got Charlotte's Web. I've got the Puff the Magic Dragon trilogy. Once again, if you're new to this channel, you may not know why. But if you're not, you remember the good old days. Then I've got Hoodwinked, which I mentioned earlier. It sounds and looks really stupid on the surface, and it is, but it's also hilarious. So it's the story of Red Riding Hood told from her perspective, but also the wolf's perspective, also from the grandma's perspective. It's everybody's perspective, and the movie is hilarious. You've got also Ice Age, Robots, The Swan Princess, The Swan Princess 2, and then the fake Don Bluth movies, which was Spielberg's little emblemation experiment where his best friend George Lucas started Pixar, and he went, I want animation too, so he made 3 movies and then fizzled out into nothing, but he made a sequel to An American Tail called Fievel Goes West, then he made We're Back, A Dinosaur Story, and then Balta, which are all also big things from my childhood. So there you have it. That is my DVD collection. I have to pick up all 1,000 or so of these movies now. It's over 1,000. I hope you enjoyed this, because this was a lot of work. It was a lot more work than I thought it would be, and it's going to be a lot more work after I'm done, because gosh, this recording is over 2.5 hours long. And I wasn't planning on editing it, but now I'm going to have to. And then I also have to put away all of these movies. So I hope you enjoy this. If you did watch everything, if you watched the whole thing, why? Are you okay? So that's it. That's my DVD collection and VHS collection. I hope you guys had fun. It was fun to give a little brief history on everything, but yeah, for a more in-depth review on a lot of these movies, I do already have them. So go ahead and check those out if you're interested, either in first thoughts, on second thoughts, or in just my normal reviews. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye.